All right, here we are.
Welcome back.
Yeah, took me a moment to find the mute button. Uh,
It
anyway,
happens.
yes. Um, so here we are with another episode of Rassilon, Omega, and that other guy.
Where is that other guy today?
Where's the other guy? Regenerated into the master and ran off to find a question mark umbrella. I'm really annoyed. He keeps saying he's going to show up for recording, and he never does. Now he's all evil this, evil that.
Apologies to the audience that I don't have video today. There's some kind of malfunction on my Type 20 TARDIS, and so
Type 20. Wow, that takes me back. So, yes, apparently there's some sort of Sohail here is broadcasting from Big Finish, where it's audio only all the time.
yes, I like that. I'm gonna go with that. That's good.
But today we are going to be reviewing a TV episode.
I know, very exciting, and it's like brand spanking new Doctor Who.
Yes. And we will I guess throw out first spoilers for Power of the Doctor, because not everyone necessarily has seen it yet, but we are going to spoil the hell out of this. So if you're listening now and you don't want to be spoiled, go watch the show, the special, then come back and listen to our podcast. And subscribe and like when you get back. Or subscribe and like before you go, even.
I think you could just do it like while you're watching us. There's like a button somewhere, I think.
So we are going to figure out whether or not this deserves to be filed in our playlist of great moments in Doctor Who. Today we're going to just see what we think of this. This one's a bit unusual because the other stories, we were all, at least one of us was fairly confident that it was in fact a great moment in Doctor Who. But today we're going to be a little more uncertain. We haven't talked about this. I honestly do not know what Sohail thought of this story. So. But I guess first is we should talk a little bit about the big news that came out just as we were recording this, or at least the day of recording.
Yes.
So, and that is, of course, that there's going to be a Blu-ray release of Power of the Doctor on November 14th. Wasn't that
that's
it?
like no, well, that's not the only news. I mean, certainly that's good news.
Is there some bigger news I need to know about?
Yes, there is some bigger news. Well, first of all, take a look at this screen here. Wait, hold on. Oh, darn it. There we go. Type 20 TARDIS. Blame the Type 20 TARDIS on everything. They announced the new logo, and the new home of Doctor Who is going to be Disney Plus, apparently, here in the States.
Yes, everywhere in the world outside of the Isle of Great Britain or Isle,
right?
Whatever. Yeah, they. So yeah, that's different. I'd actually heard rumors about that about a month ago or something, but just kind of ignored them because there's always been rumors about Disney acquiring or connecting itself with Doctor Who in some fashion. And this is not the first time. There used to be they used to have Tom Baker introducing Disney episodes on BBC, episodes of the Disney TV show that used to get broadcast on regular
Oh,
networks
no way.
back
I
in
didn't
the
realize
70s.
that.
Yeah, back in the 70s, they'd get Tom Baker to introduce some of them in costume as the Doctor. So,
That's pretty funny.
Wonderful World of Disney, that was what it was.
Oh, I remember those. I forget who introduced them here in the States, but I do remember that.
Yeah,
I guess it was Walt Disney. Actually, Walt Disney. So Tom Baker got to be Walt Disney in the UK.
apparently, yes.
That's really funny.
But yes, now the mouse has got now the mouse has to get his own scarf. Um, so yeah, I don't know. As somebody who already has a subscription to Disney Plus and was kind of subscribing and unsubscribing from AMC to get my new Doctor Who, I'm kind of like, yeah, this makes my life easier. I don't
Oh
know if
yeah.
everyone's going to feel that way about it. And there are, of course, from a sort of social cultural point of view, Disney getting its teeth into every single IP is perhaps a bit worrying on the grand scheme of things.
Well,
But
remember it's all licensed nowadays. So, like for example, Paramount Plus is supposed to be the home of Star Trek on streaming, but they you can't watch the 10 motion picture films on on Paramount Plus right now because they've licensed it to HBO. So they're on HBO for like a few months and then they come back. So Disney probably has the license to Doctor Who, but I don't think they've acquired it, have they? Is that
no,
what the
no,
news was?
they
Oh yeah,
and
okay.
I was going to say
Gotcha.
that is the big difference. Unlike,
Oh, okay.
say, X-Men or Aliens, they don't actually own Doctor Who. They've just
Right.
acquired the license to show apparently new Who. I mean, I'd kind of be happy if they had classic Who on Disney Plus, but I don't know if they're going to get all of New Who or just the latest stuff, and the old Who stuff is still going to be elsewhere. Like HBO
Well,
is going to have the 10th Doctor, and BritBox will have Classic Who,
right.
or how it's all going to shake out.
I think they're gonna get the whole shebang of New Who, is my impression.
Okay, I mean
But
that would make
it would be
sense.
nice. Although BritBox will probably get mad because that's the only reason I subscribe to Brit. Oh, that and Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes. But
I need to check out Jeremy
Jeremy
Brett
Brett is
Sherlock
the
Holmes.
definitive Sherlock Holmes, I would say, in my
That's
opinion.
certainly what I've heard. I've never
Yeah,
actually seen a Jeremy
on
Brett Sherlock
screen.
Holmes. So,
Yeah, on
yeah,
screen.
on screen.
You'll be delighted. I predict you'll be delighted. Maybe in a future podcast we'll get a little update and hear what you thought when you get around
Okay.
to
Yeah. No.
it.
Yeah. I'll have to look into that. So. All right. Well, that with that big huge piece of news out of the way, is there any other news?
There's just some cool material coming out. They did a BBC and Doctor Who on YouTube. Shooty Gatwa, I think you were watching that today. Was
Yes.
doing like a little thing about his favorite or episodes that he really likes of Doctor Who and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. He said that he thought the Weeping Angels were the best classic monster, and that made me feel old. That made me feel as old as those doctors inside Jodie Whittaker's head. So,
Boy, was it great to see them. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute, but
I suppose the bit of news I was betting on that I turned out to be completely wrong about was that there was going to be a surprise Christmas special that Russell T Davies was going to get out on
that's
Christmas
yeah.
Day, and I was thinking they were just keeping their mouth shut on that so it didn't rain on the Centennial special, and they were going to drop the trailer for that right at the end of this, but they did not. In fact, they explicitly said returns in 2023.
Right.
So there will not be a Christmas special. I don't even know if there's going to be a New Year's special at this
No, I
point.
don't think so. And it's 2023, like the end of the year too. So it's crazy, right? The fall, I think, is when it comes.
Yeah,
out.
which is odd because they shot the David Tennant special like in easily in enough time to get it out for Christmas if they wanted
Right.
to. So.
Did they get? Is it three specials with David Tennant and then Shooty starts?
I've heard three. I keep hearing three specials thrown around, but I don't hear anything other than at least one of them. Obviously, the first one's going to have David Tennant, but I don't know any more than
Okay.
that. It maybe he's all three. Though I'm honestly, I'm more interested in getting to Shooty than to see more David Tennant.
Yeah, I want to talk about this whole David Tennant 10th Doctor, 14th Doctor thing a little
Yeah.
bit after when you get a chance. When we get to that.
Yes, it is on the list. So yes, maybe we should just get on with the review at this point.
Yeah, I think so. We're everyone's waiting.
Yes. So I think I had a nice promotional slide there of Power of the Doctor. And this was released by the BBC October 23rd, 2022 AD in the Humanian era. And if you're thinking, wait a minute, that just happened, you're right. If you haven't seen it, you need to go watch it. It is written by Chris Chibnall, and it is seems to be largely inspired by endless amounts of Doctor Who fan fiction. Because, yeah,
That's pretty
master
funny.
team, the master of the Daleks and the Cybermen all team up to get the Doctor. That's fanfic. Let's be honest. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I'm just saying that's fanfic. Oh, and there's the fifth Doctor and the seventh Doctor and the sixth Doctor and the eighth Doctor and the first Doctor.
Well, it's only fan fiction until it's not, right? So no, it's not.
I guess not. I don't know. Yeah, I still think of season 4 of Enterprise as being fan fiction, but
Wow. Wow, controversial hot takes from our host here today. That's great.
I know I like season 4. I love it. It's clearly written by fans for fans.
Yeah, I get what you mean. No, I get what you mean. Lots of fan service.
Yes, yes. And I guess if they're this is the of all the episodes that have come out in New Who, this is the one that shines the greatest spotlight, I think, on classic Who. The only one I think that comes close is School Reunion. But
yeah, it's true.
I'm trying to think. I don't think anything
Well,
else shines quite as much of a spot. I suppose what is it? Twice Upon a Time, maybe.
it
But that really felt like we just kind of
yeah.
grabbed the first Doctor and dropped him into a 12th Doctor story. But then I guess we kind of do the same with Sarah Jane. So.
Right. Kudos to David Bradley, by the way. He's a great first Doctor. I really enjoy him.
Oh yes, yes. He's done quite a few Big Finish audios
Yeah,
as the first Doctor.
and he also got to play William Hartnell, which is even cooler. So he got to play both.
Yes.
Both he gets to play both the actor who portrayed the first Doctor as well as the new version of the first
And
Doctor.
if we're being completely honest, there were moments in Adventure in Time and Space where he was playing William Hartnell playing the first Doctor.
Right, that's right. That's right.
So there's some next level of Inception stuff there. All right, but getting back to Power of the Doctor, can you read the summary for us?
Yes, I shall. The Master teams up with the Cybermen and the Daleks in a plot to capture and force the Doctor to regenerate into the Master so he can do evil in the name of the Doctor. Yaz, Ace, Tegan, Graham, and Kate Stewart all team up to change the Doctor back and save the Earth from a volcanic death. Cameos and references to classic Who abound.
So yeah, space-time coordinates for this are the Sol System in 1916 AD, and 2022 AD, both in the Humanian era, and both up in space on a planet, on a cyber conversion planet, and on the Earth. So, well, let's talk about the characters. Jodie Whittaker. We should start out with the most important actor of the hour.
That's right.
Yes. What did you think of Jodie Whittaker in this story?
Okay, so I've been a fan of the 13th Doctor, but I've felt the 13th Doctor was underserved. And the reason I'm a fan of the 13th Doctor is Jodie Whittaker. I really like her. I like her as the first female Doctor, and I think she was just a super cool, chill Doctor overall. That being said, this was her greatest story by far. So yeah, this was and she did such a great job. It got me in the feels where it needed to. I thought she was very, fun to watch. I thought her regeneration was very poignant, but it was also one of the most beautiful visually. That I think it's the most visually beautiful regeneration I've ever seen. I can't think of. I'm trying to, it was just she's watching the sunrise and she regenerates, like in this like glorious way, and there's no TARDIS crashing or like like Dalek ships being blown up or or anything like that. So well, and Capaldi's regeneration was weird, right? Matt Smith just like pops into him.
Yeah, it was like a sneeze or something.
It's like a sneeze. Yeah, it was like that was a very strange regeneration.
Well, I mean, I have to be honest. I have some issues with Chris Chibnall's writing, but the one thing I have to give Chris Chibnall credit for, the Doctor Who, the show, has never looked better than it did under the Chibnall era. So having the most beautiful regeneration occur actually is kind of almost seems to be something obvious in hindsight, that Chibnall would make a more gorgeous regeneration than anyone who came before.
Right. I would say that overall the Chibnall era has been more visually pleasing, but I think for me, it's one of the most visually pleasing, but I think for me, the 11th Doctor, Series 5 and 6, and I guess part of and 7 are probably the most visually interesting to me, or pleasing.
Oh, okay. Visually pleasing or just pleasing in general?
Just pleasing in general, and also visually. Well, the Series 5 I consider a perfect season of television, period. Like all of television.
My memory is not what it should be for which episodes were in season 5, so I don't know if I should disagree with you or not.
Yeah, when we get back to it, Series 5 begins with the 11th Doctor regenerating into himself, and then ends with Amy recalling him from oblivion.
Okay.
At her wedding.
I do remember that Victory of the Daleks was rubbish.
That was season 6. No, that was also Series 5. You're right. Yeah. That's Series 5. Oh, that isn't. Would you like some tea?
That was like the best part, was Daleks asking for tea. It was everything else that I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're here to talk about Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah, back to Jodie Whittaker. No, but she was great as the Doctor. I hope they find clever ways to bring her back in the future.
Yep. Yeah, it would be cool if whatever they're planning for the big 60th, if it's a multi-Doctor story, that Jodie gets at least a cameo.
I think she would be so much fun because they're pals with David Tennant if they bring him into it, and I think she would have a lot of chemistry with all the new Who Doctors. It would be great. But yeah, who knows what they'll do for the 60th.
I have to admit, I'd be really interested in seeing Jodie being written by a different different showrunner. I think that could be fascinating. I do think, this gives us a chance to really focus on Jodie, something which almost seemed to be lacking in her first season, where she kind of almost seemed in the background of most of her stories. Sometimes felt, which, I mean, I guess that was true of Hartnell too, but Hartnell was always the elephant in the room, in the background. And Jodie kind of feels like, well, yeah, we know who the Doctor is. She's a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey. There's not a lot of mystery or uncertainty. She's not one of those Doctors who we think is going to do anything unreliably bad or anything. She seems quite, predictably good, and so there's not that sense of tension in having her kind of off at the edge of the frame, and what might she be up to and how might she change things. But here she's front and center. This is her story, and I think it is actually the best outing Jodie Whittaker gets to play the Doctor. I still think Devils of Punjab is my favorite story really good, of this era. But as far as if you're coming to Doctor Who to watch Jodie really do some stuff and show some acting range and stuff, I think this is probably her best. Some of the specials, the New Year specials, were pretty good as well for her, but I often felt like the TV series seemed to feel like the writers weren't necessarily all that interested in writing her in a lot of cases, and I felt that was weird. But
I get that impression too, and it's a shame that most of her run just blends in. Like I can't really honestly tell you what stories, stand out per se, except for the ones you mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of a few, but they stand out for reasons other than Jodie Whittaker, and I don't
Right,
think that
right.
that's not the actress's fault. They just didn't seem all that interested in doing anything with a lot of range with her, so she kind of stays fairly similar and predictable the whole way through. She's in some ways Jodie is the most generic doctor we've gotten. Um, and and that's just down to the writing. They seem to be so worried that people wouldn't accept her as the doctor that they made her the most generic doctor possible, so that there was nothing that wasn't doctorish about her. But in the
Right.
process, there's nothing that really defines her as being different from the other doctors. Quite like, Capaldi was kind of could be quite outright mean and ruthless, and certainly was very, very grumpy and standoffish. Matt Smith had a very unusual personality that was, this like they described an old person trying to be a young person or something.
I was really hoping, part of me was hoping, I think this is, you'll have to correct me, I might be wrong about this, but I was hoping 13 would be the beginnings of a Valiard arc.
Oh, I don't know if we're ever going to get back to that outside of. I mean, Big Finish has gone back there a few times, but I because of they John Nathan Turner had the script changed at the last minute, so that instead of saying the Valiard existed between the 12th incarnation and the final and the 13th incarnation, it instead said between the 12th incarnation and the final incarnation. So
Oh.
so really, there's this massive
Oh yeah,
spectrum
and
now.
that's right. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
though it does seem to indicate that is that when the Master figured out that the Doctor had unlimited regenerations, was when he was in the Matrix in Trial of a Time Lord, but then he waits all the way until uh, the Jodie Whittaker era to actually get really upset about the Timeless Child. So yeah, maybe he just discovered she got more regenerations, but he didn't know how, because Time Lords can bequeath those on people. Like
Well,
they bequeathed a set on the Doctor in Time of the Doctor, and they offered to bequeath a set on the Master in the Five Doctors. So
yeah, exactly. The whole timeless child thing, I'm sure we'll analyze further, but yeah, that kind of throws a weird wrench in the Valiard thing that I hadn't thought about before. That's interesting.
yeah,
Because also, yeah, I mean, previous to this, folks thought like you only got 12 or 13 regenerations, but
right, yeah.
we know
12
we now know that
regenerations for 13 bodies. So
bodies. Yeah.
So that was certainly the thinking at the time, but John Nathan Turner actually wisely got that line of dialogue tweaked so that it left
Right.
things open. And now that has paid off in that we do not have to feel like there's a huge continuity snarl if the Valiard hasn't come back, because only if they kill off the Doctor forever will it seem weird that the Valiard didn't come back. But
Yeah. I you know we were talking about Jodie. It's true. Like when I think back on her performance, and the writing, how she's written, how her Doctor is written. Um, I keep thinking the moments that I remember are when she's referencing other doctors, and I feel like yeah, that's kind of like sad. Like I have a tradition of going back, and when a Doctor finishes, I go back and watch their whole run.
uh-huh.
So I'm curious if I will change my mind upon rewatch now that I know how it ends.
Yeah. I was gonna try to do was started on a rerun of everything, leading it shortly a few months ago, but then I kind of fell off the wagon, not due to the quality of the stories, just I was watching it with a friend who suddenly got too busy to come over, and so we weren't able to finish. We got into the Jody's second season and then stopped and never got back to it. But So I did rewatch her first season and the beginning of the second season recently, and I'd rewatched Flux recently. Like I watched it twice, so I've three times actually. I think I've seen Flux three times, so I've got that pretty fresh in my head. It's only the second half of her second season that I'm a little fuzzy on. So.
Right.
But yeah, she gets to run around. She gets to be the doctor in front of other doctors, which is always a bit of a interesting thing. She gets to be the doctor in front of the master. She has to go back to being the doctor after the master becomes the doctor. So she gets to go through a lot of different things here. So we also get to see inside. We also get to see the Guardians of the Edge, the first Doctor, the fifth Doctor, the sixth Doctor, the seventh Doctor, the eighth Doctor, and then in a different way, we get an appearance by the fugitive Doctor. I did not know they were in here. I was totally caught completely by surprise when the Edge of the Guardians of the Edge started popping up on screen, and was just absolutely wowed, because I got into Doctor Who back in the 80s and was very much a classic Who fan, so getting and the Tom Baker and Peter Davison were my first two doctors. So getting to see Davison again, and Colin and Sylvester and Paul McGann, who I've loved, and have great, a very strong connection to through Big Finish. It was just wonderful to see them all show up and do their thing and mess with Jodie Whittaker's head, and be the mess. They literally were the mess in Jodie Whittaker's head. But yeah, it was just great. What were your feelings on that?
I feel much the same way, and I totally didn't know about it, and it caught me off guard. And that's like one of those moments that I was telling you about where the show kind of got me in the emotions there. Sixth Doctor was my first Doctor. I don't know if I mentioned that before.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yep, and if you knew me as a child and saw my Technicolor Dreamcoat that I used to, well, not a child, but a young teenager, I was very much inspired by his look, which most people hated, but I loved it. I guess because he was my first Doctor. And then the eighth Doctor was my favorite Doctor until the 11th Doctor. So I got to see my first Doctor and my favorite Doctor, and they're all very closely, close to each other. But those are the two that stood out for me here as very special. And I have to say, I was so happy for this moment, and I was really impressed, and I was like, bravo, Chris Chibnall and company, because I kind of expected something like this for the 50th. So it was nice to see it here with in a Regeneration episode, like not even a anniversary special. So I'm just I was very chuffed, as the Brits would say, by all of this. Loved seeing the fugitive Doctor. I hope it's not a goodbye for her, but with a new showrunner, often you don't really get the previous showrunner's character, so maybe we won't see Ruth again. But it was nice to see her here at the end. It was good. My screen name today is "Where's Ryan?" because I actually missed him. It was good to see Graham. I love Graham and Ryan. A lot of folks didn't really like Ryan. I'm not sure why Graham and Ryan left the show, but I loved them. I thought they were great.
Yeah. No, I mean Graham was clearly the writer's favorite. They gave all the good lines to Ryan or to Graham, and you could kind of see why he was the favorite. He does have a tendency to sort of steal the scenes he was in.
Well, he's a superb actor. Yeah,
exactly. And Ryan I loved his relationship with Ryan and the back and forth between him and Ryan.
Yeah.
And I've heard the actor who played Ryan, whose name I'm forgetting, is actually apparently quite impressive in some of the other work he's done, where the writers give him a bit more to do. Oh, I'm just now realizing that they didn't have Peter Davison in the robed lineup there on the picture, so I don't have a picture of Davison up there. Oh,
Oh,
sloppy, sloppy.
Braveheart, Brian.
Yes. All right. Well, Peter Davison or Peter Moffat, if you're out there watching this and you're wondering why I didn't put your picture up, it was a complete oversight on my part. Do not take it as a personal slight. So,
We'll make sure to put a big full screen picture of Peter Davidson on the next podcast, just for fun. I guess
so
touching on that for a moment, this was special in and of itself, but they took it a step further by giving Ace and Tegan a moment with their doctors, and that was just superb too.
oh
It was
yes.
like, yeah. So I was very impressed with all that stuff.
No, it was wonderful to see Ace and the Doctor again, and it was wonderful to see Tegan and the Fifth Doctor, and it did have me wishing that they had Perry on the team just so that we could have had the Sixth Doctor say goodbye to Perry. Because if there was ever a companion where you kind of feel like they need to have the Doctor go have one more proper goodbye, it has to be Perry, right?
So wait, Perry is the I'm trying to remember Perry. She's the companion that was kind of like tossed around all the time, and she had like a fake American accent. Is that her?
She was the fake American accent. I mean, I
Okay.
don't know. Doctor girls get tossed around all the
My
time.
kid,
All
yeah,
of
that's
them,
true.
but
That's true. Good point. My kid memory is just the fake American accent and the tossing around. That's like what I remember about Perry. But the fake
but
American accent, that was, oh boy. I never thought Brits do such a good. Well, she's not British, right? She's Australian, the actor.
I can't remember
Oh, okay.
she's not American.
Typically, I've seen Brits do really great job at American accents, but that one, that one did not impress me.
Yeah, this was classic Who, which is notoriously bad at doing American accents. Um, but I just figured the reason she talked funny was she was British. I somehow missed it when I was a little kid watching her. I didn't realize she was supposed to be American. I somehow didn't get that memo because they were in some place that didn't look at all like America when they introduced her. But
But remind me in the audience, what was her fate that the Doctor would need to say another goodbye? Like I
well,
forget.
the Trial of a Time Lord mind warp story ends with us being informed that the Time Lords killed Perry because her mind had been infested with the consciousness of a slug creature. And then at the final episode of Trial of a Time Lord, The Ultimate Foe, one of the Time Lords comes up and says, "Oh yeah, that was propaganda. She's actually alive." And Brian Blessed, yeah, she's in love. She married Brian Blessed, and the Doctor's like, "Oh, well, okay then," and that's it. And I'm like, he doesn't say goodbye to her. He doesn't. There's just that one line of dialogue, and it's like,
That's funny.
and I was like, really? And I think Big Finish has actually done oh my God, that was terrible. Let's have a proper ending audio drama. But when we're taking the trouble of giving Ace and the Doctor a goodbye, it feels like, why aren't we getting a goodbye for? And I get it. It was already stretching things to fit both Tegan and Ace into the narrative, give them something to do. Having Perry there as well, at some point it just becomes silly how many characters you've got running around not doing anything. Dan basically just walks off the set at the beginning of the story. So I can
That's
see
funny.
why from a structural point of view, but it would have been sweet to see the Sixth Doctor saying some sort of reconnecting somehow with Perry again. But
Yeah, that would have been nice, and yeah, that would have been nice. But maybe they'll give Colin some more dues. He is. I was just so happy to see him, and these robes are so interesting too. And I love that gag where the Eighth Doctor, he chooses not to wear the robes, and then the Seventh Doctor like, there's always one of those. Uh, but now, also, if I'm not mistaken, isn't this outfit that he's wearing here, the Eighth Doctor outfit? I think it's the one from his special, his special that he had in New Who, but I think also that he designed this costume, if I'm not mistaken. Paul
Um,
McGann did or something, or had it commissioned, or I
no,
forget. There
the
was something interesting about it.
well, he did because they were just recycling promotional photos from the '96 TV movie. Paul McGann eventually went to Big Finish and said, "Please, can we get a new costume and do some new photos so that I
Oh, right
look like
on.
what I actually look like instead of that young guy in these?" And it's the same. Like you've got like 12 photos of me that you use for all the covers of the audios. And can we try to get some? And they actually went to the BBC and talked it over, and they secured the permission and money, and they put together and it was largely directed by Paul McGann. The a big double breasted black leather jacket, and a satchel, and a new custom made sonic screwdriver for him. And they did a bunch of photo shoots with it, and he even showed up at a few conventions wearing it.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And but that was not the outfit he is wearing in Night of the Doctor when he
Oh, okay.
regenerates into
You're right.
Photoshop of
That
John
one's
Hurt.
more like a beige color, if I'm not mistaken. You're right.
So, but what he's wearing here looks like it's either designed to be very reminiscent, or it is actually the Night of
The
the
big.
Doctor outfit.
Okay, got
So
it.
it's not the Big Finish outfit.
Oh, okay, got it. I
But
gotta go and look up the Big Finish pictures then. That's cool.
so
But I
yeah.
had my stories mixed. Thanks for fixing
Oh yeah.
that.
No, I remember being kind of excited about it. Oh, a new costume for the Doctor. But so um one question I had about the Guardians of the Edge, what was that power pole, telephone pole thing supposed to represent if everything in there was symbolic?
The power of the Doctor.
I, I guess. I mean, it's this like they went out of their way to stick this big power pole right there with weird surrealistic cables on it. And is it just supposed to be the various threads of the Doctor's life connecting together?
Oh,
Is it
maybe.
as you say the power of the Doctor? Is it just some sort of node of some sort because it had lines going off in all sorts of different directions to the horizon?
I'll really have to go back to that. I kind of found that whole backdrop a little underwhelming. Like I thought the segment, the scene was awesome, but yeah, I don't remember. I have to go back and watch because I don't even remember taking it in. I did take note of the power pole though. I did. I was like, oh, what is that?
Yeah,
Where are
you
they?
you
Like it
can't.
wasn't even like Gallifrey doesn't have power poles on
No,
it.
no.
Yeah, it's true. So it was like, um, I also thought it was an interesting new kind of take on what happens to the previous incarnations when well, essentially they're dying, but they somehow still exist through the current incarnation. So it's a weird thing. It puts a new spin on regenerate. I never thought of it as like anything dying. I always just thought of it as a change of a physical change, and maybe like brain patterns get changed because there's a new brain in there, or new eyes, so you see a little different, maybe perception changes and things like that. But overall, like what the fifth Doctor says in this, I remember everything. Like it's not like a death per se. So that was interesting that they brought this into play. And they certainly suggested it before. I think I think it's like 10 or 11 says, and then a new person saunters in and your whole personality changes. And it's true that your personality does change, but I never attributed that to like the death of a personality, if you will.
Yeah, well, we will talk a bit about that when we get to the time lore section. So
Excellent.
we're definitely going to discuss that some more. But I wanted to get through the show as a whole before digging into the new and the old lore that relates to these voices inside the Doctor's head. So
Where's Ryan is in Patagonia, so he didn't have time to finish reading all the pre-prep notes. So thank you.
it's no problem, no problem. But yeah, it was great to see them again. That was a very good way to work them all in. So I understand Tom Baker was invited but wasn't able to make it. So,
He
But
was
that,
well, he was also in the 60th, so it's all right. I'm
yeah,
okay with that, you know.
yeah. I vaguely wonder, did they invite Matt Smith? Did they invite Peter Capaldi? I mean, it seems weird that you wouldn't at least try to get them. I can totally see why they might say no, but or was this a deliberate no? We just want classic Who doctors.
I wonder if they did that because I mean, you can't really get the Ninth Doctor so
It'd certainly be very hard.
hard. And then if you put 10 in there, it would have been weird for the ending. So
Yeah,
maybe the decision was let's stick to classic Who on this one.
yeah, could be, or it could just be these are the people who answered the phone, but
Yeah, exactly.
these are the doctors who
By the
called
way,
back.
speaking of answering the phone, it is nice to just going back to Paul McGann. For a while, he was, I think, a bit shy on the Doctor Who stuff, but I feel it's great that he's really embraced it now and he comes back for all these things.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I noticed he started loosening up as soon as Christopher Eccleston was the Doctor. I think as long as people would stop asking him if he would ever come back to be the Doctor, suddenly he was fine with appearing in public when he wasn't going to keep getting that question all the time. So
It's funny that I mean, it's funny that that he got that question a lot because I certainly understand why. Like I was always hoping for more Eighth Doctor for sure.
oh yeah, and I certainly loved his run on Big Finish that continues to this day. So, and let's see, yeah, the Fugitive Doctor makes a cameo. I think the most interesting thing about the Fugitive Doctor's appearance is that it doesn't really amount to much. I figured that there would be one big last continuity dump concerning the Timeless Child and the Lost Doctors, the Morbius Doctors, and Division, and there's not. All of those plot arcs are
Right.
just not here. There's a
I
quick cameo by the Fugitive Doctor, which is made pretty clear to be just the knowledge that that the Doctor happens to have of the Fugitive Doctor, and nothing more or less.
Yeah, and I don't know, you know, what Russell T Davies has planned, but I can't imagine we're gonna find out more about this stuff. So the opportunity, yeah, I consider that a missed opportunity as well because if you're gonna wrap up your era, you know, finish telling some of the stories you started telling. You know, maybe they look at it differently in the sense of like, well, we can continue telling these stories elsewhere, you know, which is fine. And they will, I'm sure.
Yes, no, she's already doing Big Finish audios, but the thing to keep in mind is from what the director has said, they were into production, starting production when they found out they would need to shoot a regeneration scene for Russell T Davies. So this story and from other stuff, it sounds like they were this was supposed to be the last Doctor Who story for the foreseeable future. The thing we just watched, when it was scripted, it was meant to be not goodbye to Jodie Whittaker, not goodbye to Chris Chibnall. It was meant to be goodbye to Doctor Who for at least a few years.
Oh, I didn't
So
know. I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, that's what the director said. Anyways,
Oh,
yeah,
fascinating.
we were just
Okay.
supposed to nobody had told. Chibnall found out Russell T Davies was taking over 2 days before the rest of the world did. That's how late it was. They had to quickly write some extra scenes and add a regeneration at the end of this story.
I didn't realize
So
that. I had no idea about that, and that's very interesting because so the Doctor would have just what not regenerated, I guess, or
I mean, apparently the director says we had to add the regeneration scene, or maybe it was one of the producers. But
so they would have had a interesting. Jodie would have been an eighth Doctor, seventh and eighth Doctor situation where if we ever saw her regeneration, it would have been in a different show.
yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to call it a different show, but
Well,
yeah, she could have
series,
ended
sorry,
up being one of those doctors who reigned for an incredibly long time as the Doctor because they just weren't making the show, and nobody was replacing her. Sylvester McCoy was the Doctor for years and years and years because he didn't actually step down from being King Doctor until the '96 TV movie, and similarly with Paul McGann. So it sounds like that's what we were. I'm guessing now. Maybe they just Maybe the regeneration, what they meant was the doctor says, I'm going to go off and regenerate now. And she walks off, and then the show ends. And the idea was, well, since we don't know which doctor to stick in next, we're not shooting the regeneration itself. And maybe that's what the director meant, is because they wanted to keep it open. They didn't want to show who the new body was. Because they didn't know who or what Doctor Who was going to be in a few years when somebody else picked it up. So that it could be just as simple as that. A slight, we weren't going to actually physically show the regeneration, and we had to do that scene. Or it could have been there was no regeneration scene planned, and it was just supposed to be a big last hurrah. But getting back to the original reason I brought this up, you asked, well, why didn't they spend more time on the timeless child? I think it's quite possible Chibnall saw that this was supposed to be the end of Doctor Who as a whole, not the end of his era. So he decided to focus on Doctor Who as a whole rather than wrapping up his own era specifically. Though there's certainly a lot of touchstones to the Jodie Whittaker era. They bring back Vindar and Kate Stewart and stuff.
It's interesting. I had no clue that Doctor Who was going to end for a bit or take a break. At all until just now, so I'm a little mind blown. But that's interesting too, because Russell T Davies, this whole new Who era is his baby. So it's interesting that he came in last minute and was like, "No, I'm not ready to say to save Oz on it." It's
if
like,
no one else will make Doctor Who, I will.
Do it.
I will save Doctor Who again.
Also, how can you not find a showrunner for Doctor Who? Like that to me, it feels like a no brainer. Like that's weird.
I mean, on one level, it is very hard. It is incredibly stressful. I've seen interviews with Stephen Moffat talking about how frustrated he was at the crappy scripts. That he's like, I could have fixed these scripts, but I didn't have time. I knew these problems were in them, and I still had to stamp go ahead and film it because there just wasn't time for me to fix it, and it was so frustrating. And I could tell that because when Steve Moffat made sure he had time to do whatever it is he wanted to do for writing, that the scripts were better. The Moffat scripts got a bit harebrained when he was madly dashing them out one after another while trying to keep the whole production on the rails. So I kind of think Moffat did his best work when he had Russell T Davies to do to help him out.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
So it is a hell of a lot of work, and of course the spotlight on you. I mean, have you seen what the fans say about Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker?
Yes.
You are painting a
terrible.
big bullseye on yourself if you take this job. Especially since, and so I can see why a lot of people don't want it. It's very, you're given an insufficient budget to produce a big science fiction epic, and told to make it look good and make it compete somehow with Star Trek episodes that are got $8 million an episode budget,
right.
Star Wars episodes that have $10 million an episode budgets, and they're told, this is our British thing that does that the Americans don't have. It needs to look as good as that, and here's $250,000. Have at it,
Right.
Well, it's probably not that low, but it's certainly not $8 million. So it's a very stressful thing. I can see how, you've got to love the show, I think, in this day and age to want to do it. And Chibnall loved Doctor Who, and Moffat loved Doctor Who, and Russell T Davies loved and is loving Doctor Who as we speak. This is getting dirty. So I think it kind of like, this is the double analogy, but kind of like how season 4 of Enterprise ended with a goodbye to all of Star Trek rather than a goodbye to the crew of the NX-01.
Oh, actually, that is a good analogy. Interesting.
And now, I mean, I actually didn't think the last episode was all that bad, but I know most fans absolutely hate it. So that's I don't mean it, but you can see what they were trying to do. They were trying to wrap up the whole series, the franchise.
I'll say this about Enterprise just as a quick tangent. I loved that last episode when I hadn't seen Enterprise, I'd only seen like bits and pieces of it, plus that last episode because I'm a huge TNG fan.
Ah,
And then when I finally saw Enterprise, that's when I was like, "Oh yeah, come on, they deserve like that was like
yeah.
so I get it. Like yeah, it is a little bit of a I get it. I get it. Also, you want you spend 4 years with how many ever years with a character, you want them to have their hurrah, like and that was kind of taken away. So that could have been that's interesting though that this was meant as a. I see it now. I see all the goodbyes to an era. That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So you can kind of it kind of some of the creative decisions make a little more sense when you realize, and plus they're celebrating 100 years of the BBC, so it's demanding that you acknowledge the classic Who that was the foundation that New Who is built on, as much as the 60th anniversary or the 50th demands that you acknowledge that. And we can discuss some other day whether or not the 50th actually acknowledged classic Who, but certainly this unabashedly, perhaps even over the top too much, it acknowledges classic Who. I'm enough of a Who fan that I'm like, oh sure, just fan service me, baby. I love the fan service, but I'd be horrified if all Doctor Who was like this. But I'm fine with it every now and then.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a lot about the Doctors. What did you think? Let's talk a little bit about Yaz and Dan, our classics here, which I don't know if I have a picture for Dan, but I got Yaz.
Yeah, I don't think you have a picture of Dan.
Yeah, Yaz gets to like basically become the Doctor, for all intents and purposes in this. I mean, yeah, the Master's trying to become the Doctor, but what we see here is Yaz has become the Doctor.
Right, which is a continuation of kind of like the modern era, like, well, and I guess in a way the classic era, but the modern era really emphasizes on this whole like the companion at some point getting empowered and feeling like there's not I can be a doctor too, like everyone can be a doctor. Yay.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, did you see the outfit Tegan's wearing? She literally looks like she's a doctor.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
looks like a doctor costume.
Right.
And Ace is a little more normal until she busts out her old bomber jacket, but that's because Ace always had a costume. She doesn't need to change into some other. Doesn't need to come up with one. But
I liked
yeah,
Yaz. Yeah. I liked Yaz in the first series of this the Chibnall run, but I didn't like her in the subsequent ones as much. I kind of got bored with her, but then I loved her in this. I thought she had a good goodbye.
I really liked the whole romance arc that they unrequited love thing that they put together with her from over the last few specials. I thought a friend of mine pointed out that it was basically the same thing as Martha and the 10th Doctor, but handled so much better.
Yes. Yeah, 10 was so rude and stupid. Like about the way he was like, I don't know about rude and stupid. I'm being hyperbolic, of course, but
I mean, as we discussed at the time when we reviewed it on Robbie's show, I feel Martha's the one who's like, I want to be your best friend ever, and you have to want to have sex with me, and if you're not, then you're hurting me, and you're being mean to me because you won't love me, and the fact that you've just lost your best friend and are mourning and grieving that loss doesn't mean anything to me because I'm your best friend now. Like,
that's interesting. I have a different take on it. I see Martha as more like, I mean, I think the love part of it was definitely, I don't remember my thoughts from before, but now thinking back on it, I would say that, like, I think that for me, the thing was that she was just in Rose's shadow, and I got it. Like, I got it. You know what I mean? Like, the Doctor was just lingering and kind of like, like stuck on Rose. So it's a shame, but it's actually, now that I think about it, now that you mention it, it's kind of realistic, and I do see that Martha, the who could easily forget their best friend, and someone who they potentially were in love with,
Yeah.
so
I mean,
yeah,
if Martha really wants to be the friend, the ultimate friend for the Doctor, she would help him through his grieving
right,
process.
right.
And instead, she's just like incredibly bitter that she has to put up with the grieving process. And
But it's
um,
also because the Doctor's rude. I have to say,
oh,
like,
he
yeah, like,
is,
yeah,
but as somebody who had some very close friends who had to move away, I can say that can be incredibly painful. And if Martha had said, "Listen, I'm not putting up with the rudeness. Let me out. Let me leave," and which she does eventually,
right.
fine. But she keeps sitting around, like, and yet she's like shocked and surprised that the grieving person is grieving, and that he's being rude and antisocial as he grieves. And so I don't know.
It's
Whereas here,
complex. What's
yeah.
that? Yeah, it's complex. Interesting.
Whereas Yaz is like, okay, I want something more than to be your best friend, but if I can't have that, I'm still okay being your best friend. That's still wonderful because I care about you and who you are and what you want, and I want to spend time with you, and wherever you are, that's where I'm going to be. Whereas and I thought that was kind of interesting, and you can see it does add a certain subtext to her, that there are things she wants more, but she's also willing to say, this is better. I've got what I've got is not nothing. So, and she she doesn't fall into some toxic friend zone bullshit. So,
Yeah, I agree. But also, I think both depictions are fair.
oh no,
Yeah,
humans do both, and
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with saying Martha is Martha's not poorly written by any means. If anything, Martha has a more complex arc than Yaz
then
does,
yes.
but precisely because of the more complex emotions going on, or at least the juxtaposition of
Right.
her intelligence versus what could be argued to be a bit of immaturity, or selfishness, that Yaz is more centered, and knows herself better, and seems to be, focused better. I do I did think it was like they don't really explain why Yaz leaves the Doctor at the end. Like why is she not the Doctor's companion anymore?
Well,
And
the Doctor says I have to do this next bit alone.
yeah, but like there's there's definitely a feeling that he's not that the Doctor's not just going to go regenerate and then come pick her up again. Like
Right.
she picks up companions all the time now. Like, I'll see you in 24 hours, Dan.
Right.
Um,
But I
so
also think that like maybe that's just a. I mean, I think it's just because, with the exception of Clara, like companions rarely go from one doctor to. Oh no, Rose. Yeah, I guess no. You're right. That's a good point. It would have been nice to see Yaz continue. I agree.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, from a production point of view, yes, Russell T Davies is the new showrunner. He's going to want to come up with his own companion. So
Right.
from a meta view, obviously we know why Yaz has to stay. Leave the Doctor and not be a companion anymore. But in universe, there's no reason given. And the best I can come up with is, well, they're sitting there eating the ice cream. Yaz finally has her Martha moment and says, "Okay, I love this woman, but I need to. It's become too much to to constantly not quite have the relationship I really want with her." But they don't say that, and I really feel like I'm reaching to project that onto her in
Well,
that
they
scene.
right.
But you could maybe squeeze that in if you're desperate for some headcanon, and that
They
the Doctor somehow reads her mind and knows that that's what she's thinking, and they both kind of agree without saying anything that this would be a good time to call it quits.
The other thing I thought is like maybe Yaz can't deal with having anyone else replace her doctor. So even though it's not said, maybe that's her
Yeah.
reason.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah. Again, we're coming up with fan theories trying to fill in
yeah,
a
exactly.
void.
Yeah,
And I wonder if the reason this void is here is because originally Yaz didn't leave.
right.
What if the final shot of this epic story, as originally scripted, was Yaz and the Doctor sitting on top of the TARDIS eating ice cream, and then they kiss and they roll credits, and who knows when we're getting more Doctor Who? Because that would have been a hell of an ending that would have been right on target for Chibnall's ideas about pushing the boundaries on the show and trying new and different things.
Yeah,
That would have
definitely.
been a hell of an ending. And then suddenly they have to rewrite it and stick a regeneration at the end so that RTD has something to pick up with. So I'm wondering. I have nothing to base this on. It's just pure speculation. If that was why there's no reason for her to leave, is because they didn't have time to write one in, and so. But
That's a good. I like that. That's actually pretty
yeah.
cool, and that I would have liked to have seen them kiss. Actually.
Yeah, and you're like you just fill in your head how the relationship goes. Obviously, they bring the show back. We're going to get a new doctor and a new showrunner and everything years from now. But everyone would have gone off, knowing with this emphatic statement and the fact that Chibnall kind of pulled back from some of his more adventuresome ideas, then suddenly hits you with the big one right out at, nope, they're lesbians and they're totally going to get it on. Roll credits. Would have been awesome. But yeah, again, just speculation. I don't know. Again, it might just have been that I might be wildly misinterpreting what the director said about, or the producer, or whatever it was, about saying that they didn't have a regeneration scene shot scripted, was because it might just be they weren't going to show it. But yeah, I feel like I want to give Chibnall the benefit of the doubt, because a lot of times he has characters do stuff that don't seem terribly well motivated. So I kind of want him to give him the benefit of the doubt that Yaz leaving was in fact there was a better version of that he wrote that he couldn't use. But it could just be bad Chibnall writing, because he kind of does that a lot of times.
That's funny.
I did want to take a moment to talk about the absence of Dan. As in, if you weren't really going to use Dan, why not just write it before you got to the final episode? Or to this special, if he wasn't really going to do anything. I also felt like it would have been so cool if the Cybermen had killed Dan. Right in the opening, boom, dead. And the Doctor and Yaz are like holding each other and crying, and they're like, fuck the Cybermen, fuck the Cybermen. We're gonna, and the Doctor's like, I'm gonna bring this down. Stops here. This stops now. That little girl's getting rescued. And, the Doctor goes off on this kind of, good woman goes to war path kind of thing. And that we have this big emotional punch of the Doctor is not all right. The Doctor is not happy. Yaz is not happy, and she's going out and maybe she's going to go too far in finding the Cybermen and stopping them. And I think that would have given a real hell of a kick to the beginning of the story, that people wouldn't have seen coming, and it would have added a lot of dramatic energy. The counterpoint is, this is a fun and games, happy, bouncy story, and it would have been real dark to kill Dan at the beginning, but it would have made that Adric moment a hell of a lot more impactful later on.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the kind of middle ground on this, which is, yeah, it would have been impactful, but I'm glad they didn't do it, because I like to see characters dealing with it in multi episodes, and so to kill someone at the end of the run is always kind of harsh, because you don't get to really see the Doctor dealing with it in future episodes. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I would have preferred, if they were going to kill Dan, like, to do it earlier. That being said, I think there's just too much death of companions in general in Doctor Who, and so I think that, like, toning down another companion death would be all right with me.
I guess I always wanted Jodie Whittaker to be more challenged in the show, to be given more more that she has, more that her doctor has to overcome, and on a more an emotional level. That and offing Dan would have given her something really to sink her teeth into, I think. But you're right, tonally it would have been weird, and I mean, how many times do we just want to kill a companion to make a point? Not that they do that a whole lot, but
Right. Well, I mean, minor companion. I don't know what you want to call them. People have written in the TARDIS, I guess, like Ryan's grandma, right? Or like, I mean, she wasn't Team TARDIS, but she helped out. Like, she was in that adventure. That pissed me off. I was like, man, she was such a cool character, Like, I didn't want her to die.
yeah, but that motivated a whole lot of
Well,
really good
and
story
that's
elements.
and that's my point, is that you had
Yes.
like a lot of dealing with it, and that's what made it special. Like, that's what made it okay for me.
Yeah. Please excuse the presidential cat. He keeps running back and forth. So, well, let's talk about the Master and the Master Doctor. So,
That song was what is it? Something Rasputin.
Yeah.
Like whatever. It's like that whole moment.
somebody was saying, "Are we really supposed to accept?"
Rah rah Rasputin. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
go- yeah.
Somebody on the internet right before we started recording was saying, "Are we really supposed to assume that or are we? I guess we're supposed to conclude, or at least suspect, that the only reason Chibnall had the Master impersonating Rasputin. How do you say that? Rasputin.
Well, it's Rasputin, but the song
Rasputin.
says Rasputin because it's in a different language. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, Rasputin. Rasputin.
And
He's
actually,
weak.
Rasputin may be the Russian way of saying his name. Rasputin might be an American or English bastardization of Rasputin. So, yeah.
Well, the Master is a bastard. So.
Yeah.
So Rasputin is the only reason the Master is impersonating Rasputin because Chris Chibnall wanted to use that song. And my reply to this person was, no, I think the only reason the Master was Rasputin was because the Master wanted to use that song.
Well, that's
You
the
got to look
perfect-
at it from an in-universe point of view of just how wackadoodle this guy is.
He is. Yeah. Agreed. 100%. That is the only reason. Because he. Yeah.
I did a little research just to see Rasputin's cropped up in a few other Doctor Who stories. I think we can definitively say that the Master wasn't always Rasputin. There was in fact a real Rasputin out there before the Master came along. Quite how it all shook out at the end of this story, I'm not so sure. But
Well, the actual Rasputin, like, his head kept living for days after it was chopped off or some weird shit like that. So I think that it might have been the Master all along. Like,
it might have been, well, if they'd left him in the past, I would kind of go with that. But he
No, but there's
he
there's
dies
his-
on the cyber conversion
well,
planet.
that's exactly no. Oh yeah, you're right. That's right.
Or at least he looks like it. I mean, he passes out right in front of his TARDIS. This has got to be the easy retcon surprise. The Master is still alive.
Oh
ever,
yeah.
know?
I mean, the Master survives no matter what. He's like, yeah, it's true. That there's no proof that he's dead. But that was a pretty hard situation to get out of, because not only are you under these rocks, but his TARDIS is connected to the cyber moon, and that's being destroyed. So I can't see how he can get out of that one.
Yeah, but he's right next to a TARDIS.
He is next to a TARDIS, and he was transmatted from the past to 2022. Apparently,
no, the conversion moon was in 1916. So
when he transmatted, and then it went to. Oh, that's right.
So
you're right. Oh yeah,
there was no temporal transport, just
that's
spatial
right.
transport.
Okay. So yeah,
so,
there still is the transmat, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he just crawls into the TARDIS and closes the doors, and he's probably fine. But I mean, assuming he can recover from his injuries, but that was not terribly clear. I guess as a quick side note, apparently Rasputin during the Time War, faction Paradox decided that Rasputin would be a good recruit, so they recruited Rasputin, a version of Rasputin. Maybe, I don't know if it's the master or the original. Probably the original. And then replaced him with a duplicate so that nobody would notice that history wouldn't get changed.
Oh, so the master may have killed the duplicate.
Well, I'm not done yet.
Oh,
So
okay. Sorry.
then the Celestial Intervention Agency decided that they needed to control Rasputin, so they went in and they took him and replaced the duplicate with a duplicate.
Wow.
And then the Time Lords proper, not knowing what the CIA had done, also went in there to fiddle with Rasputin. And that's before we layer into the master into all of this sandwich.
This makes this whole thing so much better. That's so funny. I had no idea about any of that. That's really funny.
Yeah, if I'd had a bit more time, I would have had you read the Rasputin entry in the Book of the War, and we would have discussed that as well. But I think we've got plenty to talk about today. But maybe I'll pitch that at you some that you can look at on your own. But,
I'm down.
yeah. So yeah, he's wild, he's crazy, he's nuts, and honestly, I'm okay with it. I feel like the Master is much more interesting as the Joker than he ever was as a Bond villain. And as an emaciated skeleton who's trying to do evil things, he's not that bad. that version's okay. But Delgado was a brilliant actor, but as a Bond villain, I don't like. Maybe it's just because I don't like James Bond, but I just didn't think that the Bond villain masters are all that interesting, and they're always acting like super geniuses, but actually coming off looking pretty stupid. Whereas any stupid thing that the Joker master does, you could just say is part of his insanity, and so he can be brilliant and insane at the same time, and so he's much easier to produce something interesting, I think, or at least believable. So I actually like our Joker masters, and I think Sasha Dawn.
I think it's Sasha Dewan. I think,
Dewan,
yeah.
Does a great job as the master.
I think he's my favorite. I think he's my favorite master of the new era, of the new Who.
I'm probably going to go with Missy, but he's good. Sasha's
yeah,
great.
Missy's really great too. Yeah,
he's not a bad masters.
I liked his. Yeah, Missy's pretty great too. But I think he's my favorite. Yeah, I'm gonna go with him being my favorite.
All right. So, what did you think of our Doctor Master?
So, that was a really interesting thing. So you can't, like you just mentioned, the master doesn't really make sense. It's like he's on top of being a genius, he is certifiably insane. So, you can't think too hard about his plots and plans. But I actually thought it was kind of sweet that he's we've seen him in this modern Who era, really in his vulnerable moments, or her in their, I should use the correct pronoun now that there's been a female version of the master, in their journey, they've time and time again shown how much they really envy and want to be the Doctor. And so this was actually really cool. It was the culmination of this arc of the master, and so I liked it. It was so wild and weird and crazy. Like it was just like out there, and so yeah, it was disturbing actually. Even I would say a little bit, which was well done. For drama and stuff. I do think that I don't know if we're gonna get to this, but like I'm curious if you have any thoughts on the master regenerated, the Force regeneration. He's wearing Jodie's outfit. Why is David Tennant not wearing Jodie's outfit when she regenerates into him?
Well, we'll touch on that when we get.
Okay,
to
good.
the
Okay.
Yeah, I laughed my head off so hard about his goofy doctor costume that he put on with the
Oh yeah,
celery
that one. Yeah.
and the
What was it? The
recorder.
7th, the 5th. It was the
Yeah.
7th, the 5th, and the 4th, right? And the 2nd. You're right. The recorder.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. Just, oh my goodness.
Okay, so it's as if those were the master's favorite doctors. Which is
I
kind
guess.
of hilarious. Those are his favorite doctors.
And it fits the basic idea. I mean, the master has always, even since at least the novelization of Survival, where in the novelization they reveal that the doctor was casually intelligent in a way that the master always had to work to be that smart at school. And so the doctor would would half-ass everything and get A's and B's, and the master would stay up pulling all-nighters, working his ass off on his paper and presentations for at the time Academy, and he would pull a B minus, and it just absolutely gnawed at him that the doctor was always like not only better than him, but never appreciated being better than him, never gloried in his greatness, never tried to take over the universe. And then to find out the timeless child thing, that everybody's got a little doctor inside them, and that the doctor literally is the center of the universe. It's not just the master feels like the doctor is the center of his universe, and the master's always orbiting around the doctor in frustration. And then he finds out, no, it's absolutely true. The doctor is at the center of the universe on some sort of cosmic level, or at least the center of the Time Lord universe, the world of Time Lords. And that just has got to rankle him. And he finally, the only way he can square that circle is, wait, what if I turn the doctor into me? Then I will be the center of the universe, and that will finally get away. I will finally have peace in my mind over this incredible dysfunction and hatred. I will, in a sense, it's kind of sad. It's kind of tragic. It's the only way he can one up the doctor is if he actually turns the doctor into him. And I was like, that's really kind of awesome. It's both crazy enough to make for good Doctor Who viewing and eating and tastes good with popcorn. This is great. but it's also actually says a whole lot about who the master is, and it fits very well with a lot of the other stuff that's been written about the character and his psychology. Plus, you get to see him play a recorder.
But now the tune he plays, the Sky, it's about the Isle of Skye or something like that. Was that played by the second Doctor? I imagine it might have been, because Jamie's from Scotland, so I don't know.
I'm not an expert on the songs played by the second Doctor on his recorder. That you'd have to check with some other Who fan. I don't know.
Right. And would this be the first time we saw the recorder in color? Or did the second Doctor have color episodes? I forget.
Only the three Doctors and the the three Doctors, the two Doctors, and the five Doctors. And the recorder, I think, only shows up in the three Doctors, but it plays a very pivotal role in the three Doctors. So.
Yeah, I think I remember. Yeah.
I thought the Master was good. I thought that his death was a little slightly underwhelming. He just kind of falls over. But whatever. I mean, we know he's not really dead, so what's the point in spending a whole bunch of time? Look at how dead he is. No, we know he's not dead. So
yeah, no, there's no way he's dead. So yeah, might as well give him a rock pile of rocks on his body there.
Yeah, move on. So, but yeah, he was good. I thought his Rasputin was fun. And again, the show looks good. It looked like Russia.
Also, it's great to see, even though I think they went cheapo on the interior, it's great to see another TARDIS in general, and like the Master's TARDIS.
Yeah. And I think that's the Master's TARDIS has always been a redress of the Doctor's TARDIS.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right.
Which has kind of gotten to not the house in Australia in the James Bond spoof.
That was cool.
That one was not just a redress of the Doctor's TARDIS set, but every other TARDIS interior we've seen for the
also
Master.
Just seeing a house flying Like that was really cool. That was really good. See,
Yeah.
there's so many reasons why this master. I almost think that Chibnall wrote the master better than the Doctor. I wish, or not just Chibnall,
Yeah.
but like the whole. Well, I guess it would be Chibnall. He seems to do all the big stories.
Yeah,
So
I think he might have wrote all the master stories, but
yeah,
yeah, I kind of can't really argue with that.
I wanted the Doctor to like it never felt like the Doctor could like that Doctor that you described, like those feelings. Like I almost I sense it because of previous incarnations, but with this incarnation of the Doctor, there wasn't really like it's almost like she never got mad at the. I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird relationship. I have to analyze it again upon rewatch, but yeah, I just got the impression that the Master kind of outshone the Doctor
Yeah,
in you know.
yeah, you need somebody who can keep up with the when you cast your villain, they need to complement your protagonist. And I'm not entirely sure if that always worked well. But we should probably get a move on if we got a lot more to talk about here. So
Yes.
yes, Tegan. I thought it was great to see. I've never been a huge Tegan fan. She's fine. She's got the sort of personality that kind of annoys me, and I'm like, yeah, I would find her aggravating if I was stuck in an elevator with Tegan. So and she makes fun of Adric, and I liked Adric. I know problems, but that's a personal problem of mine. She's fine. I never disliked Tegan. It just never really clicked. But her crabbiness works much more elegantly in old age. I think as an older woman, her being crabby feels like more justified. like all the world weary shit she has actually seen, she wears better on her. And I
Yeah.
kind of really wanted to get a scene where she says, "I'm getting too old for this shit." I know they couldn't put that in a Doctor Who, but I still wanted it.
I don't remember how I felt about Tegan, but I do remember her yelling a lot and being crabby. I do remember that
Yeah.
from when I was watching the Fifth Doctor series when I was a kid. Um, but I thought that moment with her and the Fifth Doctor was really nice. And he does mention Adric, so
Yeah.
she was
Yeah.
thinking
No.
about him. So yeah, it was cool.
No. I like that. I love the scene with the two of them together. That was wonderful. And
Overall, I think another thing about this is I kind of wanted Tegan and Ace team up side adventure like Sarah Jane Chronicles. Like I thought they were pretty good together. And throw Graham in the mix too while you're at it. And I feel like Ace just like was like, oh, we're on a date. Like,
oh no, I am totally shipping Graham and Ace.
Yeah, me too. I
Totally.
kind of love it, right? Yeah.
I am. Those two. They went off and went on dates, and
Yeah,
they're a thing
100%.
now.
They're a thing now. I agree.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I am totally, absolutely shipping those two. I'm shipping them hard. So,
I think there's a potential spin-off called the this is a stupid title, but the Companions. You know what I mean? Like
I mean, Big Finish has done a lot of sort of companion-y stories, so it wouldn't be the first time they've done something like that. And Big Finish has both Ace and Tegan, and
okay. Yeah.
so they both of those, both Sophia Aldred and Janet Fielding are quite happy to do Big Finish. So I think it's only a matter of time before we get a Big Finish Tegan and Ace adventure, and Kate Stewart, the actress who plays her, almost Gemma Redgrave.
Gemma Redgrave, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. She also does loads of Big Finish. So like, and they have a whole unit series based around her. They can just bring Ace and Tegan into that unit series. And
Well, she does say at the end, like, I may be recruiting some of you for freelance work.
yeah, and that's like just a big gift there to Big Finish. You can get any old Doctor Who companion you can get a hold of. We can put them in our unit series now.
Right, right. Yeah, I guess that's true. But it would be neat to see like Graham go further with this. Like, it's kind of a Linda, but like real. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
Linda was speculating about it, and these are the actual people who've been on these adventures. You know.
Yeah, so far Graham hasn't done anything for Big Finish, but I mean, if they can get the actor, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
I
me
am
too.
totally for him
Oh, I'd
on the
love to
team.
see. Yeah, and you know, it is. Yeah, that'd be cool. I love those guys. They were pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I don't know, they might be able to.
But yeah, Tegan and Ace coming back was an awesome thing, and they were great. They were just note perfect. I loved that Ace donned her old costume. You know, uh,
I have to place. Oh, look, the floor panel just happens to have my old jacket and a baseball bat in the room that we just happen to be in. Isn't that convenient? As one of the things I'm fine with her wearing the jacket, but should have another way to narratively introduce it. What I thought of after like 5 second thought is that the doctor comes out of the TARDIS when they bring the master back after they captured the master and brought him to Unit HQ. She says, Ace, you left so fast last time. I didn't have a chance to give you your jacket. And she hands Ace the jacket right there and then. And Ace is like, yeah, well, and you can have this little moment like, does Ace take the jacket? And maybe she doesn't. Maybe she keeps grabbing it but not wearing it because she's still got issues about how her and the doctor split up. And then finally she puts on the jacket and kicks the Dalek's ass, and you're all like, Ace is back. You could have done a whole little thing with that jacket.
oh yeah, that's
Instead,
a
they're
really
just
nice.
like,
Yeah.
oh, isn't it convenient that I happen to have that my jacket in with the parachute in the parachute supply closet.
That's funny.
So yeah, I love the jacket. I just think that they
And the bat.
put well, it's not the same bat.
No, it's
Because
not the same bat.
Because the bat she hit Daleks with Remembrance of the Daleks eventually breaks. But this bat does seem to have similar power because it is able to smash up a Dalek in ways that normally you can't. With just a hunk of metal. So I'm guessing the Hand of Omega juiced up another bat for her at some point off screen. Sometime, Big Finish needs to get on that and get her another baseball bat, another energized baseball bat of Omega here.
And then also her what was it called? The explosive.
Oh, Nitro 999. That's now
Yeah.
the upgraded version. It was good. I was glad we got to see some more Nitro 9.
Tegan's adventures I can't remember so much, so I just kind of appreciated her as she was in this, and I agree that like it suited her, like her personality suited her really well in this, and I thought she and Ace they were really good at like
Yeah.
they brought an interesting chemistry to it, and I love the way that they interacted with Jodie, and I love that whole bit where Ace was like, "We talked about this, Tegan, but Tegan can't help herself. Like she has to say her piece,
I think Tegan should be like in a position of authority at unit. She should be like a boss, not like a field agent. She should be, chewing out Murtaugh and Riggs, and she should be. That would be perfect. I know they already have Kate Stewart, so that slot's kind of already taken, but that would be where she'd be perfect. I think is just being the person who gets shit done, who gets everyone moving and coordinates everyone like they did. She was called, the Fifth Doctor called her the coordinator in Castrovalva. And that I think, yeah. Now I kind of want to have Kate Stewart in the field and Tegan back, at the office, giving the orders and whatnot. Though I don't know how continuity wise that'd be really hard to get to from where we are now. But anyway, it was
Well,
great to see them.
I think Kate could have been so impressed with her in this that she's like, I need to go on the field. It's a very special assignment, so you're the unit director,
Yeah.
for the time being. So
Something like that would be a lot of fun. And I think she would be really good just telling all those soldier boys to get their asses in gear. I think that would be awesome for her.
yeah, totally.
Because I think part of the reason Tegan always wanted to be in charge, but let's face it, the Fifth Doctor was always in charge, and that always just kind of made her feel like she was spitting into the wind. Whereas, yeah, if you give her own series, you need to put her in charge. So because that's where she wants to be. I also think Tegan and the Sixth Doctor would have been amazing together.
Yeah.
as opposed to Perry, who had always felt like some sort of weird spousal abuse thing. But anyway, yeah, let's look at Kate Stewart there. And so, yeah, Kate's back. I love Kate. Oh, I also want to say Ace is my favorite companion.
Oh, cool.
Just want to say that. So I was just, oh, Ace is back. I love Ace. I made a fan film with Ace. Ace is my favorite companion. So
Have you met her at a convention?
no, I don't think I've met Sophia Aldred. No,
Oh,
I've
okay.
met several. I've met Sylvester McCoy a few times, but I don't think I've actually met Sophia Aldred.
Okay.
So, but yes, love Ace. But yes, Kate Stewart is also great. I love her as a character. I love her unit, and the fact that she's carrying on with unit, and yeah, she's
I was
awesome.
so glad they didn't cyber convert her because I was like, no, she's got like the same fate as her father. Like, what is this? This is so
Yeah.
demented, Chris Chibnall. I was like getting.
I think there's almost I almost want to give Chibnall credit for setting up the tension that
Yeah.
no, but I'm not entirely sure if that was just an accidental thing or if that was a deliberate a bit of plotting on Chibnall's part, because sometimes he seems sloppy about those sorts of details and symbolisms. So,
We'll give him the credit. He may have had the time to
yeah.
sit down and actually think about things
Yeah.
for this one.
Yeah, it would have been great to have the master somehow be there going like daughter, like father, like daughter, right before
Yeah.
they put her in the chair.
Oh, but he was awful to. What did he say? Oh, your father was an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to the third Doctor, but I kind of feel in the later Pertwee era, her father was an idiot, but not in the early Pertwee era. In the early Pertwee era, the Brigadier is actually really smart, but we kind of fall into this trap of writing him dumber and dumber, and everyone dumber and dumber, so that the Doctor looks smarter and smarter. And it's part of the reason I just do not like the later Pertwee stuff at all. But anyway, we're talking about Kate Stewart and Vindar and Graham, so. Yeah. Vindar. I have heard somebody suggest, and I think this was just fan speculation, that Vindar was going to be Captain Jack, but then Captain Jack's kind of or John Barrowman's bad habits got him off Doctor Who Productions list of actors.
What a clown that John Barrow is.
Yeah, I kind of hope they bring him back someday.
Yeah.
I do. But and Vindar was cool. It was good to see him again. And again, I don't know that. It could have been that it was always Vindar in that slot from day one.
So suggesting that Captain Jack somehow has the ability to regenerate, or just the standard, well, it's the future.
No. What I meant was John Barrowman would have been playing Captain
I
Jack.
understand. Oh, I was
he
going
would
in.
have yeah.
Gotcha. I was going in
Yeah.
a totally different direction with my thoughts. Because he
and
does turn into the face of Bo. So I was like, is this another incarnation?
No,
of
he
Jack?
would have crashed the ship, and he would have been, running around flirting with the Doctor and all of that.
I think that certainly makes sense, and I think that yeah, it does make sense that Jack, because he was part of Jodie's time, and it would have been great to get that cameo again. But what do you think of Vindar?
I like him. There was all this speculation that Vindar and who's his wife, Vindar's wife from Flux. I can't remember her name.
I can't either.
Anyway, that couple was going to be the Doctor's parents, and that the kid that they are talking about throughout Flux was going to end up being the Doctor. That was a rumor going around fandom that was going to be the big continuity drop. I was like, oh, I hope they don't do that, and they didn't.
So I'm a little confused because I feel like the Flux thing. Okay, so where did Vindar come from? Where was he?
I mean, he works out in some sort of space civilization, and he reported his boss for breaking the law and got kicked
No, but
off.
where's he
And
coming from in the beginning? Like that
oh,
wormhole thing and like
I
all that.
assume
And
I assume he was just trying to save the day and stop Cybermen because he's a hero now and can't be bothered to raise his kid. Um,
yeah, that's weird, right? Like, and also, is he coming from the future or is it present day? Some other
it has
civilization?
to be the future. It has to be a temporal wormhole
Okay,
because we see Vinder's present is the present for Earth when the flux happens.
okay, okay.
Is my impression. So therefore he must be. So he would have to go back in time to get to
Right.
1916.
So he's from one of the great and bountiful human empires of the
Well,
future, or
he's
something
from
like.
some. I think he's from some civilization that isn't Earth humans. Some
Right.
other humans.
Interesting.
Maybe I don't know
Okay.
how you want to parse that. If are those still humans? If they look like humans and sound like humans and think like humans, but they didn't come from Earth, and Earth hasn't yet invented space travel, are those still
Well,
humans? I
as
don't
the
know.
doctor points out, humans look like time lords. So
Yeah, well, no, and I actually have a whole episode of that we probably aren't going to get to for a little ways, but we will get to. We'll probably get to it on whatever show comes out after November 23rd. It's
oh, cool.
currently slated to be that one, where we're going to talk about why do humans look like Gallifreyans. So, but yeah, good to see him again. And Graham, I guess we talked about him quite a bit already, but
Yeah.
yeah, I love Graham, and it was great to see Graham again. It was weird that Ryan wasn't there.
Yeah. I do like how they handled it though, because sometimes shows don't even ask about the character, like, and I like that the doctor says, "Where's Ryan? Like, why isn't he here?" And Graham's just like, "Oh, he's in Patagonia." But do you know any? Can we spill some tea? Do you know anything as to why the actor didn't come back? Just probably busy or something like that. It's
I
kind
mean,
of surprising.
my guess is he was asked and was unavailable. But,
Oh, okay, yeah, it's kind of
but
that's
I
kind of
am
a.
just guessing. I
Okay.
honestly don't know.
I was disappointed because I liked Ryan.
Yeah.
He was a cool character. So yeah, but also again, I thought it was good that he was acknowledged at least.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, to the credit of the writing, you can't always have a hurrah where you get to say goodbye to everyone. Like, and there's no reason the doctor thought she was going to regenerate. You know what I mean? Like, this is not meant to be her
I
last mission,
mean,
so it's very
time.
real. Right? It's like,
That time entity at the end of the flux warned her that the master was going to kill her.
oh yeah, that's true. I guess that's
So
true.
she had a bit of a hint, and then the master said, "This is your warning. You need to get out of here, or I'm going to kill you. You've got
I guess
one
that's true.
chance."
I guess that's true. All right, fine. But you don't have to do a victory lap every time and go see all your former companions. Like, I thought it was
Yeah.
a little. As much as I loved the scene, I thought it was like, it's just a little bit rehashy of David Tennant when Amy holographic, or not even just the Amy in his imagination appears at the end. Like, I just thought it was like, come on, do you have to really go see everyone like every time you regenerate? Like, does it have to be like that? Um,
Yeah, I'm kind of, I don't really. It generally comes off as very, very contrived. Let's put it that way.
right.
If you can find a way to do it, fine. But if most of the time, in most cases, it's just very contrived, and I kind of would prefer
But this was
they
yeah.
drop that trope. But
But yeah, and so, since we have Graham on the screen, it was nice to have a representation of the first, the beginning of this series. Like, it was good to have him there.
yeah,
With
I mean,
along
Yaz
with Yaz.
has been there.
Well, yeah, but she's been there all along. He left, and so it was
Yeah.
nice to have him come back. Is what I meant.
Yeah,
Like someone from that period, other than Yaz.
yeah. I do wish they'd had a line at the end about with him and Ace saying something about going out for dinner after this companion meetup or something. That would have just been amazing. But especially since Graham's arc is getting over his dead wife, so that would have like pointed that
Right.
he's clearly doing well. He's embracing life fully, But
Also, how did he end up in the volcano with the Daleks? That's what I want to know too.
I mean, I'm guessing he's just running around doing Doctor Who stuff the same
That's
way.
awesome. Yeah, it's true.
Sarah Jane ends up in all, and her kids ended up in all these weird places, and the and the Torchwood gang. So, all right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the other villains, the Cyber Masters. And the Lone Cyberman returns, though I felt like the Lone Cyberman was just because we have the costume and the actors available. But we get more Cyber Masters. We get to see them actually in action doing all the Cyber Mastery stuff that we were kind of promised, where they've got the super tech and they keep coming back after you kill them. I love the look of the Cybermen, not so much the Cybermaster version, but the general Cybermen from the Chibnall era. I think those are the best looking Cybermen of all of Doctor Who. I
agree.
I think those look sharper. There's something about, I know that we're taking a few things from the 80s Cybermen and adding it on to the super fast Cybermen from the Neil Gaiman episode Nightmare of Silver, and kind of creating a great. The only thing I don't like is those spikes sticking out of them. I don't like, they just look so, look, I'm tough and evil, I got spikes. I don't like the spikes. But if you chop those spikes off, those are the best Cyberman costume Doctor Who has ever had. So
very cool.
I also love Akinola's wonderful Cyberman theme, which we only get a little bit of when they attack the train, but it was still great to hear it one last time. I love that Cyberman theme. So
I didn't notice it. I'll have to go back and listen to it.
No, the Akinola's Cyberman theme is probably the best thing he came up with, in my opinion, of all the different things he did. Is just really scary, intense, exciting, and yet echoing the old 1980s Cyberman theme a bit. So I also loved Russian doll Cybermen. I'm sorry, that was just so perfectly.
I mean, the Master does have bigger on the inside technology and shrinking and decompressing and compression technology. So, yeah, perfect.
Yeah. And it like all telegraphed too. It came in a Russian doll box,
right,
according to Tegan. It was all set up right there in front of us the whole time.
What was that initial Russian doll Cyberman wearing though? I couldn't. It was definitely not like, it was like an outfit of some kind. It was weird.
It was the shrunken prop of the lone Cybermen of Ashad.
Okay.
But it's not. It opens up, and all these Cybermen come out, including Ashad. And I looked the second time when I rewatched the episode. You just see as the last Cyberman comes out, you see the box Cyberman shaped box just shrink out of sight behind the last Cyberman, and it disappears. So it doesn't just close up and become Ashad again or something. It I guess goes back to being a doll on the floor. So yeah, that was great fun.
I like the explanation, or at least the speculation that Ruth makes, which is it looks like you just used the genetic material and not actually the brains of the Time Lords. So,
yes.
so does that mean the Time Lords are not cyber converted as I thought they were? I guess.
Well, they're all dead, but
yeah,
I guess,
they are.
They apparently didn't use all of the bodies, or at least not the brains of the bodies or
something like that. Yeah.
So apparently they have incredibly advanced technology, but are, I guess, still human brains in there.
I guess.
And we've got the Daleks, including our weird renegade Dalek, who is a traitor, who said he had the key to destroying the Dalek species. And then it gets uploaded into this little memory chip, and then it just vanishes when the Daleks cut open the casing. The little
the Doctor managed to pocket that, right?
It's possible, but they certainly do. There is no camera shot showing.
No,
that.
but I think she pocketed that and put it.
I mean, is Russell T Davies ever going to pick that thread up and tug on it?
No, but like you said, the big finish might. Who knows? But I thought it was weird that like I don't know why, but I recalled in that moment where the Renegade Dalek was like you must ensure the destruction of my species. I wondered if the Doctor actually would do that, because The fourth Doctor, right? Was it the fourth Doctor that couldn't do it? Like,
Fourth Doctor couldn't do it.
and
The
actually,
seventh,
every Doctor since really can't do it. Like
well,
when it goes down to it,
no, the seventh Doctor made it pretty clear that he would do it.
he would do it. Okay,
If given the opportunity, and the obviously the War Doctor was pretty much ready to do it.
do it. Yeah, with the moment.
And in fact, more or less did, because the plan they still come up with still, it may save Gallifrey, but it destroys all the Daleks. So he still does it. They still, all three of
Well,
them.
also just like the Master, we're never rid of the Daleks. Like,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
never
So the
gonna
War
go-
Doctor, the 10th Doctor, and the 11th
You're right,
Doctor
the
were all
11th.
really to wipe out the Daleks.
Daleks.
Well, the 9th Doctor was a man who never would, but or, a coward any day, as he says. So yeah, we
Yeah,
have
it
this.
is weird how the Doctor flips. I guess I didn't think about that, but the Doctor does flip flop on that.
It's regeneration and different personalities. I don't want them all to be the same. So
Yeah.
as long as they're internally consistent within an incarnation.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have this weird traitor Dalek who has the secret to blow up all the Daleks, and that just goes away partway through the story. It never gets mentioned again.
That's true.
He's killed, and I don't know. They put the gadget on the helmet, and then they cut to the evil Dalek saying, "Force the casing open," or something like that, and they all fire. And then you see these sparks and shots of the Doctor looking shocked, and then you see the casing all opened up, and the little gadget is no longer stuck to the head. Now, maybe they just shot it off, but oh look, this Dalek has the secret of how to kill us. We should put the Doctor inside its casing and wire it up to the computer that has the secret of how to kill us.
Or show us a scene where the Doctor, that later on, like show us a scene where the Doctor tosses it in a drawer filled with ways to kill the Daleks.
Oh yeah,
You know,
a box,
like a
how to
box,
kill
yeah,
the Daleks.
like all the ways to kill the Daleks or something like that.
You could just say box o genocide, and it has all sorts of weird things in it, and she chucks it.
She chucks it in there with that.
She's got a whole box of genocide devices that she never uses, but can't quite destroy, bring herself to destroy. That would have been an interesting plot idea. It's just the idea that the Doctor has this box of genocide devices that the Doctor never uses. So.
What was the vulnerability, though?
They
What
never
do you
say.
No, but what do you speculate? Like, do you know?
It's something that that can be digitally transferred. So
Yeah, that's true.
That. So it's not like, the plague. It's the instructions for how to make the plague. If it's a computer virus, then it probably is the computer virus. If it's it has to be, but it's not a magic crystal. So,
And also, before we move on from the Dalek, just one question I had was like, what do you make of this Dalek stance about the Khaleds? Like, that's an interesting thing to bring up.
that's what Davros was hired to do.
Yeah.
And but Davros kind of got carried away programming the Daleks.
What does she say? Your master, your creator would be both impressed and
Horrified.
horrified.
Yeah. That was a good line. So, yeah, I don't know what it was. Who knows if we ever will. So, and yes, we get our companion meetup. Except there's no Perry and there's no Polly. Who are both, those actors are still alive and still doing Big Finish, so they're clearly willing to show up and cash a Doctor Who paycheck. So,
Indeed.
but
Is there an empty chair though? Maybe she'll come in the future.
Yeah, some fans have said the empty chair is reference to Sarah Jane.
Oh yeah, no, that's 100% my headcanon too. That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. You could have all. At first, I thought the empty chair might have been by Ian, and I wondered if it was supposed to be Barbara, but it's sitting far away. And if you'd wanted it to be Barbara's chair, you would have put it next to Ian. But
Yeah, yeah.
But that empty chair is a deliberate thing. You'll notice the chairs are kind of in the picture. The chairs are spaced out evenly, and then the empty chair is shoved in as an afterthought.
I bet they had it in the center at one point, but then the shot probably looked better that way. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. But yes, it was cool to see Mel and Joe again, and I love season one. I love early Hartnell, and I love Ian Chesterton. So getting to see Ian and have his little moment there, her, yeah,
Yeah.
that was wonderful. Just to get Ian back.
And then
I
Mel
was,
says, "How many doctors are there?" like,
yeah, yeah,
oh boy, are you ready, Mel?
yeah. I think it would have been fun to have a few people show up that nobody recognized.
Yeah, that would have been cool, actually.
Because they got to be some of those running around. But they could be companions who traveled with the fugitive doctor or something. But yeah, it was. I was disappointed that neither Carol Ann Ford nor um, William Russell, Ian and Susan, respectively, they showed up. They were not in the 50th anniversary, and that. So I'm got for this meal here. That that was nice.
Yeah, I agree. This was another one of those moments that was just like, it gives you the feels, as I like to say.
Yeah, yeah, pure fan service, but still very tasty.
But again, also like we talked about earlier, like yeah, tasty in the sense that like who knows what Graham will do with this kind of there could be possibilities in the books and in the big finish. So
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we are apparently ignoring Russell T Davies' implication that Susan and Barbara never got older. Never got
Oh
old.
yeah. Okay.
In the Sarah Jane Adventures, they have somebody say, and then there was Ian and Barbara, who legend has it they never grew old. But like Ian looks pretty old now, so maybe the elastic finally snapped or something. It all came at once.
That's right.
Maybe Barbara finally died for somehow or other, and Ian was like, "All right, it's time to get old. I don't want to go on without her, Barbara." I don't know. So, but yeah, that was very sweet. Um, so shall we talk about? Oh, there's Ian. Yes.
Yeah. There
Yes.
he is.
Yes, I was making jokes about clothing regenerating, and I never thought we'd actually get to see that again. But the other podcast, I was making jokes about clothing regenerating, but there it is. We get to see the regenerating clothing because they don't have the guts to stick David Tennant in Jodie Whittaker's outfit.
Is that what it is, or is there a reason behind it? Because they did put Sacha Dhawan in.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they feel like my disturbing hunch is that somebody decided that David Tennant was too manly to wear Jodie Whittaker's outfit for even a few seconds. He can't look silly, and so we can't do that. And I don't know if that's the truth. There might have been some other reason that I don't know about, but if that's the reason, I'm seriously disappointed in you guys. So.
I think I could understand to a degree because I believe those pants that she's wearing are capris, and I personally would never wear a capri pant. No, joking aside, yeah, I did. I thought this actually took you out of the moment for a second because it's so awesome. But the first thing I thought about, maybe it's just because I'm a nerd, is why is he in his? Why did the clothing regenerate?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that was like, so that it was annoying in that sense because, whatever. I mean, I guess it's okay. Like, also it would be neat if it is actually a clue. So I'm hoping that, because like I think this Doctor is going to be an interesting incarnation that. I don't know what they're going to do with these three specials, but I think it's just this is obviously not the 10th Doctor. They said it's the 14th Doctor, so he could be different in many ways than what the 10th was. And that, if they play it like that, I would be very impressed. I don't want to see, if this is the 14th Doctor, I want a freaking 14th Doctor.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I guess if I would prefer, I definitely strongly prefer to discover that the clothing change has a plot point. Like as
Yeah.
you say, it's giving us a clue about what happened here, or that he for some reason needs to go adventuring so quickly he does not get a chance to change his clothes. And
Right.
like, okay, he's having him wear the Jodie outfit for an entire story might be a bit much. So if the story, the plot is such a thing that but if he has time to go back into the TARDIS and change his clothes in the at the start of the next story, I'm going to feel like it's like, oh, we have to have a masculine man look hot and sexy. It's like, geez, it's not like they didn't stick Jodie in Capaldi's outfit, and Jodie actually they trimmed up a one that would fit for her, and she said, no, I want to wear the real Peter Capaldi outfit
Right.
because
Well, and
so.
and again, like yeah, like I don't think it takes. I think that like I think actually having a scene in whatever the next adventure is at the very beginning saying this just doesn't feel right, and he goes in the closet and puts on some of Ten's old clothing or whatever, like that might be interesting.
No, I
That
think that's the photos, the leaked photos from on set. I think that's the outfit he's wearing.
Oh, he's wearing the same outfit. Okay, yeah, that's weird
Yeah.
then. Okay, I don't know. I don't know.
So, and I mean, if he doesn't have time to go change his clothes, the Russell T Davies adventure just kicks off immediately with like a flying saucer kidnapping him or something. Fine. Okay, I get it now. We didn't want him stuck in the Jodie outfit for the entire story. But yeah, if they give him a chance to change his clothes, I'm like, why didn't he just put the outfit on then? So, with regard to your comment about I don't want him to act like the 10th Doctor, you do realize there were two 10th Doctors, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
So this is the third 10th Doctor.
David Tennant, man.
This is the third 10th Doctor.
So yeah, I guess that's a good point. I never thought of that Doctor as the because they don't count him in the number. You know what I mean? Like so, but you're right. But I just think it would be really cool if this is a true incarnation but with a new face like the curator suggested, like with a familiar face, I should
I
say.
mean, I mean, the curator acted a lot like Tom Baker, or like the fourth Doctor.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't like he was like, okay, you're Tom Baker and you're playing the Doctor, but don't play him at all like the fourth Doctor. No,
Right,
no, he was
right.
doing the news tapping and everything.
Oh,
It
that's
was,
true. Yeah.
so and so I'm sure he'll be fairly 10th Doctor. Now, he
Yeah.
could still go find his human Time Lord counterpart in the other universe and get into a fight with him. I don't
That's
know
what
why
I
you
was
do that, but I was
when I saw those images and I heard that Tennant was coming back. I actually thought it was going to be the Doctor from Pete's World.
Yeah, I was kind of betting on that as well myself. I was thinking that's what was going to happen, but yeah, we have three 10th Doctors plus a spin-off 10th Doctor, so four 10th Doctors.
That's
Four.
really weird.
So yeah, I mean, but given that they recycle regenerations, we had two fourth Doctors, and the only way to make sense of the Doctor Who audio drama Death Comes to Time is to assume that there are two seventh Doctors. Is we start wondering maybe there's a whole bunch of 10th Doctors that were back before Hartnell. Maybe this is something he keeps revisiting these favorite faces.
Right, right, right. Interesting.
I do want to say that just casually making the next Doctor the 10th, the full knowledge and announcement that he's going to turn into Ncuti Gatwa before too long, is the first glimpse we have of Russell T Davies embracing the timeless child lore and mythology.
Right.
If you have a limited number of regenerations, you don't just burn through them higgly-piggly. But now that Chibnall has established that the Doctor basically has unlimited regenerations, yeah, sure, burn through them higgly-piggly.
Right.
So, if you've got a good story idea. You could argue everyone's like, Russell T Davies is going to ignore everything Chibnall did. I'm like, kind of not. Kind of looks like right out of the bat he's going to be building something on that foundation.
Right. Oh, I just remembered also I made a mistake when I said they never acknowledge like it they don't acknowledge the number. It's true they don't acknowledge the number, but Matt Smith has a line in his last story that said when he thought he couldn't regenerate again.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
funny
he
that he
counts.
thought that, and that if he had actually gotten killed, he would have regenerated. And you're like, what? Like,
It's like I stayed in this lame, limping, walking stick body for 900 years, saving the town of Christmas, and I could have regenerated anytime I wanted. Damn it!
Barnabas, where's Barnabas? But also that I I wonder how it's going to play out because you know a future showrunner could decide to really use that, in ways that we haven't used it. And I don't know if I want that. You know what I mean? Like I kind of
What do you
like
mean? Use what? And
like the unlimited regeneration thing as like a thing where the doctor could just regenerate as themselves or like regenerate mid-season, like I guess they've already done that. Like Moffat
yeah.
did that with the 11th Doctor with the fake regeneration, but and
Yeah,
also the 10th.
apparently
Yeah.
you need those bio receptacles handy in order to normally to recreate to regenerate into the not change to vent off the energy, that hand in the jar.
Right.
So, but if he goes and chops off the hand right now, right after this picture was taken, he's good. He'll grow a new hand, and he puts the hand. Yeah, he's fine. Then he can be 10th, and he just keeps doing that. He can be 10th Doctor forever.
Forever. That is David Tennant's dream. I know it. I know it.
I don't want to go.
Jodie does a variation of that when she's like, "Oh man, I need more time," and then, but I do like her last.
He's not saying it while somebody dies in a radiation booth, so I forgive her.
Right, it's true. It's true.
Let's see. I kind of felt like, and could very well be because the regeneration was a late addition to the script, but I hit by the energy from the little girl I just freed, and now I have to regenerate was kind of a lame reason to regenerate.
Right. What did was the master like directing the energy at her or something like that? What was he going to do at the last minute there?
I'm not really sure.
Because he says, if I can't be the doctor, neither can you. And then he starts pointing his device up.
I guess he diverted it or something. But it occurred to me, they've got this whole rule about 15 regenerations are squishy for 15 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they could have just said that, they could have had the holographic fugitive doctor say, because this will only work because it's in the first, they actually do say that this will only work because it's in the first 15 hours, but they could actually say, we cannot stop the regeneration. We can just use the fluidity to turn you back into Jodie Whittaker, but you will eventually roll forward. They could have just said that early on, or not early on, but when they turn her back into Jodie Whittaker, that this is just a temporary fix. You are going to have to regenerate. You just now will not turn into the master. You're going to turn into someone else. And then we wouldn't have needed to blast her with an energy beam. She just has this ticking clock. And the master's still the one that did that to her. It still forced her into that corner. So it's not like we're taking away the master's victory by that. So I kind of think that would have made a little more narrative sense and would have added a sort of ticking clock rather than, oh, whoops, accidentally killed at the end when we think it's all over. But which I guess they did with the 10th Doctor, but there at least that was the whole point. Like there was this big moment. Oh, you saved everybody except Wilf. This was kind of, oh no, the master just happens to do some techno babble and you got hit by your own weapon, basically. So, yeah. But yes, it will be interesting to see what we do with this 14th Doctor.
14th, 10th Doctor is what I'm going to call him.
Well, yeah, he could be the 14th, 10th Doctor. There could be 13 other 10th Doctors out there now. I don't know, but there seem to be a lot. We keep finding new ones all the time. But they're going to be more common than recovered episodes of the classic series soon. All right. Well, let's talk a little about the. I guess we talked a lot about the good in this. It's a great ball of mindless fun,
Yeah.
but and I loved all the tributes to Classic Who. Let's see. Moments I love. The Dialect and the Cybermen looking at each other during the music video moment.
Yeah, that's
With
great.
a what the fuck? The Dialect and the Cybermen. What the fuck is this? I just kind of, oh my goodness. I don't know if I really buy it, but I don't care. It was hilarious. Also, Ace parachuting into the TARDIS.
That was an awesome sequence. Yes.
Yeah, that was great.
I have to say the camera work in this series, in the whole this era, Jodie's run has been wonderful, like dynamic in ways that we haven't seen before. Because that was a pretty cool, like, shot. But there's a lot of stuff that I could just think of. Also, like cinematography. You're right about earlier when you stated it's probably the most beautiful incarnation of Who looks wise. Like,
Yeah, the show has never looked better.
Yeah.
So you can quibble about how it sounds, but though I actually Akinola's music I love. I don't know if he's the best Doctor Who composer ever, but he's definitely one of my faves. So yeah, did you have any other good moments that you wanted to shout out that we haven't talked about?
No, I think we covered like so many. This was an instance where, since we're reviewing slash reacting, like I think we've been doing the good and the bad and the wibbly wobbly throughout. But I will just say that I think the creature of the episode, the final creature, was so interesting and cool. I like Jodie's reaction to it. What was it called? The Kurnox or something, or the Pandax or something. I don't know, something like that. I thought it was neat. It was a really neat thing, and like it felt like like I like the explanation that it would appear as a child because that's this like defensive mechanism or whatever we thought was vulnerable, right? Or whatever. But then seeing its true form, I thought they did a good job of it. Even though it was just a bunch of strings, it looked really cool. I liked it. So I'll give a shout out to the creature of the week, if you will.
Yes, the escapee from Encounter at Farpoint, where they also have a space jellyfish that is used as a power source to convert. Convert things from one type of matter into another type of matter.
That is correct. That's true. I didn't even think about that.
That is imprisoned by some obnoxious bad guys.
That's true.
So maybe those were corrects as well or something. Let's see. The bad. I did have some things. I'm like, was that painting gag worth all the screen time it took? I mean, it didn't take a lot of screen time, but I feel like with all the other goofy things the Master's up to, did we really need him sticking his face on all the paintings? It didn't really go anywhere. The story wasn't about once we've revealed that it was the Master, we just dropped the paintings and never mentioned them again. And I don't know. I was like, what did that add to the story that was worth giving up character development time?
I wondered the same thing, but I also appreciated that it was like a nod to a previous incarnation of the Master where he had his face on everyone. So it was like maybe in his demented mind he was like doing that. I don't know.
That is the joy of the Master. You can always just say, but he's cray cray. And but I still don't know if it added anything to the story.
Yeah, the geologist or whatever, that made sense, but it was those two things that was the paintings. It would have been neat if the paintings had a tie-in. You're right.
Yeah, whereas like the paintings in the 50th anniversary, they were very essential to the plot. That's where the Zygons were on.
Now,
fucking around with weird painting weirdness made sense there.
Now, in my head canon, the Master actually went and somehow convinced all these painters to paint him instead of the subjects that were being painted.
I mean, but if they did, nobody would remember the original version of the painting unless he like brought them forward in time and snuck them into the museum and had them deface their own paintings.
That's a good point. Like if they were always painted that way, you're right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. So he had to have defaced them then. Yeah,
and
that was just a weird master thing. Probably
yeah.
just to distract. It's just something that like he probably has a lot of these little just things that he put out there that
Yeah, he's
like
sitting here. I had that entire a giant grasshopper Congo line that the doctor never and unit never even found.
found. Yeah, exactly right.
And what about the bunny rabbits eating Jupiter? The giant space bunnies eating Jupiter. They never even noticed them.
Notice. Yeah, so I feel like it's just to me I have to like chalk it up to that, I guess.
I was a little like the doctor turns into the master and then grabs Yaz and they go out and they watch two planets shoot missiles at each other and the master takes credit for that, but I'm not quite clear what the master did. He just kind of showed up and they stepped out and the planets are shooting missiles at each other and the master's like,
Right, this is supposed to be the master doctor
yeah.
or and so this is their first adventure. How could they have, like exactly. So like I don't know.
Are we supposed to assume that there was a whole adventure that happened that we didn't get to see or
Yeah,
what?
I guess that's weird. Yeah, it is weird.
And
to me, it
I
felt.
also thought it was really weird that he's like, "Oh, she'll be back." I'm like, I really
Yeah, I don't
doubt
know
it.
why she would be. Yeah, exactly.
That seems like a bit of a stretch.
But
there.
then you figure interestingly that he calculated probably that they would concoct a plan that he didn't think would work to put.
Yeah. I guess they figured she's in love with the doctor. She'll find a way to try to turn me back into the doctor because she's in love with. I guess. I guess is his logic.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, that whole. I mean, a cool special effects piece though that Star Wars planet with the giant mushrooms or whatever was there.
Yes,
it's like
yeah, it did look a little Felucia.
Felucia, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yep. I also feel like Tegan would never have abandoned the doctor if she's going to regenerate. Tegan lived through Castrovalva. She's not going to abandon a regenerating doctor. She knows how bad that can get. Maybe she could be talked into leaving the doctor if somebody else is watching, but I feel like.
But is it clear that she knows because the Yaz finds out after she's dropped everyone off that the doctor's regenerating.
It just feels a little weird that all of them are willing to walk off without saying goodbye.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay with the doctor. At least some of them want to stay.
And she had the moment where
did Yaz pull that gun out and say, "No, out of the TARDIS. I want her to regenerate." And then the first person she sees and bonds with, like with Amy Pond, she's going to bond with me.
I thought that the goodbye was said fine enough. Like, here's the doctor, like, kind of like, passing out or whatever. And she looks at all their faces and says, like, "Oh, my extended fam." So I feel like if I were Team TARDIS, I'd be like, yeah, like, she'll be fine. Okay, we'll see you later. We got to see her or whatever. Yeah. If they knew she was regenerating, that's a whole different thing. Like, I don't think anyone gauged the seriousness of her injuries at that point. But I would have liked it if Tegan kind of had a worried expression or something just something like a little extra worry would have been nice. You're right. Because of that. Like
Tegan says, did the doctor ever build a new zero room? Because if so, you're probably going to need that if she regenerates.
Oh, that would have been such a nice little
thing
nod,
to indicate that she's an old hand at nursemaiding doctors through regenerations.
That's cool.
Line.
Yeah.
So. It wouldn't even have to have Tegan say it. She could have just said, "Oh, you're regenerating?" Tegan said you might need the zero room. And she's like, no, I won't need the zero room. Not yet. Or something.
Right.
And we could have said, oh, okay. They at least gave her some advice before they went off to Croydon's.
Right.
Did you have anything that you thought was disappointing or frustrating about the episode?
Overall, I think that it was certainly there was certainly less of it in this episode, but I think the bad overall of the Chibnall era is exactly that. Like, there's these things that are dropped in that you're like, oh, that's cool, and then nothing happens when
Yes.
yes,
Yeah. See, the problem with Russell T Davies is he doesn't like to put proper foreshadowing. He just has the crazy stuff happen at the climax, and there's no proper foreshadowing whatsoever. Chibnall has exactly the opposite problem. He's always setting stuff up and never paying it off.
right, exactly. No, exactly. So yeah, I would say that there's like a lot of little nitpicks like that for me, in the bad. And then the other
I,
thing is just I think again, we went over it with like certain things, but like uh just like also like I feel like with this new series, the editing has always been rather choppy. Like adding to that, adding visually to that whole like dropping things. Like it feels like they cut. It feels like they leave whole scenes out that like I'm used to seeing or that I like seeing. And just make the audience assume that it happened. And a good example of that is in the episode with the Sea Devils. I forget the doctor and the doctor's in one part of town, and then like it seems like they're walking, and they should be, and like it seems like they're walking like to a close area, but the next scene is in a whole different part of the town. So it's just weird that like without a scene in between that shows them another scene or something, it just
yeah.
like cuts to that. So that's, I know it's a hard thing to describe, but it kind of puts me off, like it takes me out of the
Yeah.
moment.
Oh, I can kind of see what you're going at there. So you have a great cameraman and a great lighting man, but not necessarily the best editor.
Yeah, that's exactly, I guess, where I'm going with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And
edits
then,
can.
unlike you, I wanted to like the music, but overall, it's unmemorable. It feels like wallpaper to me. But there are some good themes like that stand out. The Doctor's theme I really like and stuff like that. But that's the only other thing.
Well, go listen to the Cybermen from the Timeless Children
I
or
will.
Ascension of the Cybermen theme, and listen to that and tell me that's terrible because I think it's great.
Okay, I'll do. Will do.
So, all right. Well, wibbly wobbly. Let's see. What have we not talked about? We never did anything with the damn pocket watch.
Oh yeah. See, that's another. That's exactly it. Like this is what I'm saying.
And I don't think Russell T Davies is going to dig it out and do anything with it. So
No.
it's just going to stay buried in the TARDIS for decades until somebody writes a novel or a comic or something that digs that watch out.
Yeah.
I, I was like, really? We're never gonna. I mean, why didn't you just have the watch get blown up if you were never gonna have her open it? She could have chosen between saving Yaz or saving the watch, and she saves Yaz, and the watch gets destroyed or something. Or she emphatically says, I don't want to know, and throws it into a black
Right.
hole.
Right.
Something like that.
Right.
She's like, I might open it someday. I guess like the TARDIS knows the truth now, but maybe no. We don't even know if anyone ever wiped the TARDIS's memories in the first place. So
Right.
probably always knew the truth.
Always news. Oh, I do want to go back real quick to our previous segment and just say that one of the good things was like the TARDIS fighting back at the Master.
Oh yeah.
That was cute, and he's like, and then he has to yell at the TARDIS, and I thought, oh, this is definitely like,
Yeah. A little one of multiple references to the 1996 TV movie.
yeah, that's right.
Which also had the dressing for an occasion and line and of course Paul McGann.
Yeah.
So in the 96 movie, the TARDIS is like, fuck you, master. I don't like you. So, I'm sad about the pocket watch not getting any resolution because I'm pretty sure Chibnall's not going to, or I'm pretty sure Russell T Davies is not going to touch that pocket
Right.
watch at all. And everyone's going to be, everyone who's not the showrunner is going to be afraid to touch the pocket watch. And so it's going to take until everyone forgets and no one cares about the pocket watch before anything's ever done with that damn pocket watch. And even then, I'm not sure if any writer who isn't showrunner is going to ever have the guts to open it or destroy it. So I don't know. Some writer might destroy it, but I don't know if any writer would have the guts to open it. So if they're not showrunner of the show and have that level of authority over Who, that they can feel like they can make that kind of change. So, the cyber planet should have been Mondaz.
Yeah.
It should have just been the master. I saved Mondaz and brought it into into 1916. You know, just as one more. As long as we're doing all this other loony, crazy stuff, why not just have it be Mondaz? That would have been fun. Does Yaz, Tegan, and Ace still have their holographic ghost doctors following them around? Because that would be awesome.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. That's great.
They might still have them. Maybe Yaz has a holographic doctor.
That is pretty cool.
Yes. That Ace could be adventuring with the Seventh Doctor. Tegan could be getting advice from the Fifth. It all still could be happening.
That AI doctor is a great idea.
The fugitive doctor says, "I'll see you around." And that's the last time we see those AI doctors.
Right.
She says, "I'll see you around." And then she disappears. They all could still have them. There's no reason they don't.
It's true. It's true. Also, that would have been an interesting, at least get their faces in when, we didn't get Matt Smith or any of the other of the new era. But in that scene where the AI doctor is parsing like the idea of a forced regeneration and like temporarily turns into previous doctors, they just use the cameo doctors. But in that moment, they could have used the 9th, 10th, and 11th, and the 12th as well. To bring them into it, because there were no speaking lines. It would just have been their faces, and we've certainly done that before. Like when the 11th walks through every previous incarnation's doctor, and he says, basically run.
I remember those flying eyeball things.
Those things. Yeah. Prisoner Zero. But yeah. Anyways, that would have been a nice little completing the the Doctor cameo bit. Just go all the way.
Did you have any more wibbly wobblies?
No, I think we mentioned all the wibbly wobblies. Did we?
The one that the wibbly wobbliest line in the whole thing was, "Do you know what's going on in 1916 right now?" And the Doctor is in 2022.
Yeah.
Do you know what's going on in 1916 right now? Only well, not only Doctor Who, but Doctor Who's definitely the best place to find lines like that. That was some premium wibbly wobbly.
It's true. No, yeah, I think that's it. You covered him really well.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll go on with talking a little bit about the Time Lord stuff. This episode has gone wildly overlong.
Hey, it's a big event.
Sure.
Also, the episode was 90 minutes, so we're not doing too bad.
Yes. It was yes, the Guardians of the Edge, and I guess if you could bring up that picture that had a bunch of the Guardian doctors there. So, that is actually something that has been set up and established in the novels of Doctor Who already.
Oh, okay.
Yes. After a regeneration, a copy of the previous personality is stored in a Time Lord's memory space for eventual transfer into the Matrix, which is kind of the Time Lord afterlife. Officially, each copy is kept sleeping in their minds, but as we've learned today, or this week, in reality, some of them become, become guardians of the edge, and they function as gatekeepers for the point of no return. The Gallifreyan crosses when a regeneration must cross when a regeneration is going to occur. And it sounds like maybe you don't cross that until that 15-hour thing is up, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Past incarnations sometimes wish they could have lived longer and sometimes resent how they died, like a resentful ghost. And sometimes they need to be locked away in a little mental room with no doors because they become so ornery. There's also a case of a condition called regenerative dissonance, where the copies of the previous personalities are left completely active and have just as much control over the Gallifreyan as the current personality does. Most Gallifreyans with this condition quickly arrange a permanent suicide. Usually, they don't even make it to the seventh incarnation before they're
Oh
driven
wow.
mad and kill themselves. But there was a Time Lord known, at least among other names, as the 12, who successfully reached her 12th incarnation with 12 different voices rattling around in her head at the same time. And I don't know if they've actually killed her off yet in the audios, so she might even turn into the 13. Obviously, she was known as the 11 and the 9 and the 8, and because there were 8, that's how many personalities were in her head,
Huh.
or his head. She did some genders back, sex change regenerations. But so yeah, that was regenerative dissonance where they're all still completely in charge and bossing everybody around.
That's fascinating.
So, some Time Lords of the first rank can intentionally achieve a retro regeneration and summon the skills and personalities of a former incarnation and put them in charge. The TARDIS's telepathic circuits can help make this achievable. Like there was a novel where the seventh Doctor realized he needed to do some technical stuff with the TARDIS, but the third Doctor was actually better at that stuff. And so he summoned the third, mentally summoned the third. It still looked like the seventh, but it talked and acted like the third Doctor. So,
And
obviously,
didn't Modern Who do this in a weird way with was it Matt Smith who talked like the fourth for a second or something like that, or
uh, it wouldn't surprise me if this idea is cropped up and I'm just forgetting about in the TV show, and I'm just
it might have
forgetting
been,
about
you
it.
remember that episode with the weird goo people that turned into, there was a two Matt Smith story. Uh
Oh yeah, with the goo people, the not the also people, the something people.
well, those
Um,
people, I
yeah,
feel like that doctor talked like the four, I don't know. But I just remember there was like some weird thing where like a personality came out that wasn't the 11th, but they also dubbed over the fourth doctor's line from a, they just took it from like a previous, a previous episode.
you might be right. I haven't literally have not seen that episode since it originally broadcast. That was the last time I saw it, so it's been a minute. Yeah, there might be. As the number of personalities build up in the subconscious of the Gallifreyan mind eventually risks breaking under the strain of having so many personalities. Because of this tendency toward madness, Tecteun engineered it so that the nucleolinga symbiotica can only divide 12 times before the biogenic molecules become unstable and start to decay. And this limits a Gallifreyan to 13 bodies. Obviously, the Doctor, the timeless child, appears to be immune to this. Because she's, though she has had these memory wipes, were these memory wipes actually a treatment rather than just a punishment?
Oh, indeed.
I mean, we're past, she's certainly got over 13 personalities bouncing around in her head now. Yeah, is that a treatment? Or I don't know. The idea that the personalities build up in the subconscious and causes damage, will break a mind after too long, is from, I believe, either the audios or the novels. It's not TV level canon.
Mm,
But it does seem kind of plausible with a lot of the other stuff we've seen. And they've made a big deal about how the timeless child is an exception. She's not a normal Gallifreyan. She has
right.
all these unlimited regenerations. So
Well, and she's from another dimension, so
yeah, another
yeah,
universe.
a universe, yeah.
So anyway, there's a little bit of details of, now we have a name for this entry on my website, Guardians of the Edge. So I'll need to update that because it was just kind of some random notes about how the personalities function, but now we have a name for them, Guardians of the Edge. So, so is there a version of the Master rattling around in the Doctor's head now? I mean, there kind of has to be, right?
uh,
There was a master incarnation,
yeah, I guess
and
so. Yeah.
so like that, there's got to be a master sitting there saying, "I always dress for the occasion in black and red robes," and everyone else is like, "Oh God."
Or, or because of the 15-hour thing, he just never got a chance to even exist.
I think it's more fun if he's in there.
Yeah,
Also, darn, what's the name of it? The Infinities or something? There is a comic strip that a Doctor Who fan makes, a fan fiction comic strip, not approved by the BBC, about all the personalities in the Doctor's head rattling around and commenting on the current adventures that the Doctor is having.
oh,
And
that's
it's
funny.
a hilarious comic strip. Oh God, what the heck was the name of it? Darn, I just realized it now. Oh God. Um, all right. Yeah, I'd have to look. I'd have to do some googling. The name. I want to say it's like the Infinities or something. But yes, it's this comic strip about all the other personalities inside the Doctor's head, and every now and then those not doctors show up, like the Peter Cushing Doctor shows up, and they're all like, "You're not canon," and I'm here anyway. They get in arguments and stuff, and the Valyard is always a huge pain in the neck. And yeah, it's
The Peter, remember the Peter Cushing Doctor is actually named Doctor Who.
yes. Anyway, I advise people to. I'm sorry I can't give a name to them, but they're a great comic, and it's definitely worth reading through them.
If you find it, maybe you can put it in the notes so that the audience, while they're liking and
I will
subscribing,
put it in the notes. Yes, I will put it in the notes. Yes, so check out the notes. Write down in the what is it, doobly doo? I think they call those or something. Anyway, yes, please check those out. Also, we have the punishments that are among the punishments authorized by the worshipful and ancient law of Gallifrey. We have a disciplinary forced regeneration, which the master talks about as being a sentence that would often be inflicted upon criminals for severe crimes. And the novels also add that it's a fairly common sentence for fairly minor crimes. Apparently, just stealing a life from you is a fairly catch-all way to punish a Gallifreyan. They use we know that you can use chemical or one Gallifreyan can use chemical or telepathic signals to trigger a regeneration in someone who's badly wounded. But it's also been stated in the audios and apparently shown here that you cannot force somebody who is conscious to regenerate if they are conscious and they consciously refuse to do so, unless you have an entire cyber conversion planet powered by a TARDIS and an alien space jellyfish, and then you can override even their conscious will and force them to regenerate.
it was
And
very Frankenstein, not Frankenstein, but it was a lot of things. It was very horrific. I loved it.
This appears in culturally speaking, this is often called a death sentence on Gallifrey because you're killing one of the incarnations, even though you're not. Oh, and here is the latest incarnation of the presidential cat, the little kitten. Say hello. This is the kitten, presidential cat in kitten form, just newly regenerated.
Aw.
Yes, very cute. So they call this a death sentence, but death isn't quite the handicap for a Gallifreyan that it is for normal people. So
Right.
it probably would be, and it requires approval by the High Council to sentence somebody to a disciplinary forced regeneration. It is the mandatory punishment for unauthorized use of a time capsule. So if you steal a time capsule, they're going to regenerate you if they find you guilty of that. And usually exile you off of Gallifrey as well. But certainly they're going to take one of your incarnations. A forced regeneration can be used, as we saw, to imprint a matrix projection of another Gallifreyan onto the subject, effectively allowing you to bring a deceased Gallifreyan back to life. And that's exactly how they brought Rassilon back to fight the Time Wars. They found a member of his house, made him president, and then forced him to regenerate. And then while he was regenerating, laid on the matrix projection of Rassilon onto him in the same way that the Master lays his own matrix projection onto the Doctor in this TV story. So we've actually seen a forced regeneration where somebody was forced to turn into some other Time Lord.
Timothy Dalton.
Well, it wasn't Timothy Dalton. It was a different incarnation.
Oh, okay.
That was the guy who regenerates into Timothy Dalton
Gotcha.
later on. So,
Okay, gotcha.
Apparently, the Daleks got in a good shot on him at some point. So, um, so yeah, that's a little bit of time lore.
That's very cool.
Did we want to talk about a TARDIS feature of the week, or do we think this episode's a little overlong?
No, let's go all the way. I think we should go all the way.
All right. Well, I will have you read the TARDIS. We are going to talk. I have drawn up my notes for Type 70 through Type 79 TARDISes. And put them together in a little bullet point form. And there's a Type 75, admittedly deliberately engineered to look like to echo an evil version of the Doctor's TARDIS.
I love this color scheme though. It's very
Oh
cool.
yeah. Oh no, that's gorgeous. That was like, oh, I kind of wish the TARDIS always looked like
Look like
that.
that, yeah.
So, did you want to read the TARDIS Type 70's entry?
Yeah, sure. So released around the time of the, how do you say that?
I don't know. It's only seen it in a book.
Delia Vatsud intervention.
Also known as Genesis of the Daleks.
Yes. To prevent the creation of the Daleks, the Type 70 would become one of the more popular time, was it TT?
Time travel capsule.
Oh,
TT
time travel.
capsule.
Okay, cool. See, I'm learning things here.
Yeah.
TT capsule, or time travel capsule of the pre-Time War era. Indeed, it was the release of the Type 70 that resulted in Type 50s and earlier capsules being deregistered and made non-operational. The Type 70 Mark 6, often known as the Type 706 capsule, would be considered to be modern and even new for over 4 centuries. This would cause some problems for older Time Lords who were used to the control console layout of vintage capsules. In addition to all the new capabilities of the Mark 6 refit, the Type 70 had enhanced telepathic circuits. This allowed for a pure telepathic mind lock to replace the key-based lock systems used in earlier models. The circuits also made possible a more reliable version of the Navigator voice control program that could even be used for operating the internal lift and other minor functions throughout the interior. A military modifications of the Type 70 was issued for the Celestial Intervention Agency. It was based off the Battle TARDIS program from the Dark Times. This military TARDIS was equipped with weapons systems that included time torpedoes. So we'll go to the bullet points now. Released around the time of that intervention. Has enhanced telepathic circuits. So like that means that they can like a Time Lord in this type of TARDIS can just like think where to go and it goes. Is that what it is?
It was
Or, like-
usually voice activated, but yes,
okay.
they possibly could. Maybe it would have an increased difficulty skill check, but yes. So-
Right. First, to have an improved pause control that can freeze a TARDIS in mid-materialization for up to 2 microspans. What is that?
microspan is about 6 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So about 12 minutes. Normally you can't freeze a TARDIS in mid materialization for more than a few seconds, or it starts to like drain the TARDIS's power out of it. But the pause control on the Type 70 is improved. So.
And is this the first anything other than a Type 40 we've seen on screen?
No, the Type 70 that we're talking about right now has shown up in a bunch of Finish audios. Big Finish loves the Type 70.
Oh, okay.
And has done quite a bit with them. They've also been some. They've also cropped up here and there. It apparently is a popular number for people to throw out. So,
What would have been the last type model?
The last TARDIS that would be called, that technically would have the word type, would be the Type 89.
Okay.
They actually came out with some weird types after that, but they were all later just reclassified as variations of the 89. So there was a bunch of weird types that came out after the Type 88, but then President Romana said, "This is getting silly," and they're all Type 89s now because they're all just variations of the Type 89.
Gotcha.
And so then they did a Type 90 War TARDIS and a Type 91 War TARDIS to fight in the Time War, and then there was an alternate timeline we saw where they had a Type 94 Time Dreadnought. And that, I don't know if that happened in the Prime timeline or not. And then we had the 100 forms, which were sometimes known as Type 100s, but more often were described as 100 form or 101 form or 102 forms. These were sapient walking, talking TARDISes.
Oh wow.
That, you could, high five, and they would disguise themselves as people in the local civilization rather than as objects.
Fascinating. How would you go into your TARDIS?
They kind of open up in a way that tends to cause humans to have slight mental problems.
Gotcha.
They just kind of peel out in some non-Euclidean, multi-dimensional way. They just open up and humans are like, "Oh, that's freaky," and they sometimes close their eyes going in and out because it's less disturbing that way. So.
We could add this to the bad. Again, very cool to see a new type TARDIS, but the interior looking basically the same as the Doctor's TARDIS. And even though you said it's always been a redress, like I would have liked to have seen even more. But now that I'm looking at this picture, they did have that weird cube cool thing, and yeah, it's different enough, I guess. Maybe.
I guess it looks so beautiful that I don't care that it was the
Right.
same redress set. Such a good job everything that I'm just happy to get a chance to look at
Yeah,
this thing.
it does look gorgeous. It does look pretty.
Yeah, it wasn't
yeah.
like the Master's TARDIS in Planet of Fire, where they just took the Doctor's TARDIS console and painted it black, and then painted the walls black. I'm like, lazy bastards.
Also, actually, this suggests something interesting. Like maybe whenever there's like, the whole interior of the TARDIS changing to these wild shapes and stuff. That's like part of the new Who, because like typically a TARDIS or even a TARDIS regenerating is new Who stuff, right? Like that never really happened before.
I mean, they talk about TARDISes being capable of regenerating in the Stones of Blood, but we don't really see it. We do see that the TARDIS the Doctor talks about the TARDIS redecorating, and he doesn't like it in some of the Fourth Doctor episodes. I can't quite remember, with Leela and K9. He's complaining. He's running around dressed with painting gear on and a bucket and a paintbrush, and he's complaining about how he doesn't like how the TARDIS redecorates, so he's going to do it himself.
Okay.
But again, we don't really directly see that. So,
but that's okay. The implication is that it does this, so that's
yes.
okay. Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Neat. So the Type 70 features an internal voice-activated lift made of metal. What is that?
It's just an elevator. The stuff is just me annotating every little detail made of metal. That strange plasticky, ceramic-y stuff that a lot of TARDISes seem to be made of in the classic era. So,
there's a sick bay located on level Gamma 7. Unlike a Type 40, a Type 70 can penetrate distortion grids.
Yep. And which fits with what the Doctor says in this TV episode about the Master's Type 75, saying that has way more power than a Type 40.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that is interesting. One of the first to carry a pure telepathic mind lock for the main doors. So you could just lock someone out by thinking about it.
Yep.
That's
or
awesome.
unlock it by
or unlock it. So the Type
So
40 spontaneously developed that with the finger snap then.
Well, it's, whether that's telepathic or whether the TARDIS is just looking at, oh, he wants me to open the door, I'll unlock it.
Hence hence the snap, right? It's looking at
it's debatable. Maybe it's telepathic, but yeah, the Doctor's TARDIS has been modded out extremely. The original Type 40 doesn't even have an external force field. That's a mod the Doctor installed.
Oh yeah, that makes
it's standard equipment on later TARDISes, but the Mark 1 the Type 40 did not have an external force field.
Oh,
When it rolled out, when it when it rolls out of the factory, or TARDIS growth chambers, or black hole shipyards. That's what they're called.
And did we see Yaz use the well, there's an improved voice control navigator on the Type 75, or the Type 70, but did we see Yaz use it in this episode?
She says, I don't know why I'm talking to the TARDIS, but she
No,
also
but then,
does seem to be working. She does keep talking to it after that point.
Yeah, and doesn't she say like take us to something and it goes?
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
there is, and there is a voice navigator on the Type 40 that's usually broken.
Right.
In fact, when the previous owner that the TARDIS who owned the TARDIS before the Doctor gets on board, he's like, the voice control circuits are completely broken. Why haven't you fixed them?
A military modification of the Type 70 was issued for the CIA, which we already talked about.
Yeah.
And then the Master has stolen one Type 70.
Yes, we do know he owns a Type 70. And that's about all we know about the Type 70 that is not also true of the Type 40. Obviously, we know lots of stuff about the Type 70 that is also true of the Type 40, but these are the unique details. Then there's we know a little bit about a Type 71.
Right. It has a much faster and easier to use chameleon circuit.
Yep.
So that means previously, like, people could have gotten a glimpse of what a TARDIS looked like. Interesting.
It generally materialized, then changed.
And then the Type 75, the model could generate much more power than a Type 40, which we found out.
Yep, that's what we learned this week. And then there's a Type 65 or 76.
65, 69.
There is a Type 65, but we're going to talk about that another day.
Oh, but the 76, what is that? The relational information system with expanded data banks.
Yeah, it basically has a much better Google encyclopedia.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Cool. So there's far more data stored and a much better data retrieval system for collecting, for reviewing files. So, in a Type 76, you could very often just go figure out what the date and the location is and then go back in and read everything that's going to happen, rather than going out there and asking questions and experiencing the events.
Right.
76 has a better matrix connection and could just provide you with details.
But before we end this segment, I just have a question. What is this book do you know anything about the book that Yaz pulls out with all the sticky notes that she places everywhere?
I assume it's one of the TARDIS manuals.
That's what I thought too. Okay, I wondered.
But I think the sticky notes might have been clearly she was studying it and trying to figure out how it works. She didn't just stop. She was trying to figure out how that TARDIS, that Type 89 that she found that she had on Earth at the end of season 2 of Jodie's, at the end of the Jodie's second season. She was trying to figure out how that worked, and she clearly kept working on that as a project even after the Doctor came back. She no longer needed to. She continued to research that, and then she had a holographic Doctor that could advise her, push that switch, pull that lever.
It's cool because I think that makes Yaz like a unique TARDIS pilot in a sense, right?
I mean, Ace says she never got to pilot the TARDIS, but there's a lot of expanded universe stories where Ace got to pilot the TARDIS. Okay. So Ace kind of got pretty good at it, and I think Mel figured it out eventually as well. Let's see. Obviously, Adric once or twice actually flies the TARDIS.
That's right.
So Adric kind of could manage it in a pinch. With the Fourth Doctor giving verbal instructions, Leela flew the TARDIS once. But the Fourth Doctor told her, what to do. But and there's probably been some others, I'm sure, of companions flying. I mean, Dr. Donna seemed pretty good at flying the TARDIS.
She was really good. All right, cool.
All right. Well, we should wrap this up.
Thanks for sticking with us for nearly 3 hours, audience.
Yes. Yes, we're going to have to, we better wrap this up before it's the 60th anniversary. But yes, check out a website, allthingstimelord.com. And Starfleet Boy has some wonderful stuff as well.
Yeah, just Google Starfleet Boy. I'm mostly active on YouTube and Twitter.
All right. Well, let's see what the time scanner has for us. The time scanner is saying. The time scanner is saying that history will reassert itself, and we are going to finally get to see the review of the Stolen TARDIS next time.
Nice.
Funny, I could have swore we already did that one. Deja vu.
Deja vu all over again.
All right, audience. Well, if anyone's still listening, we'll see you later in these time and relative dimensions in space.
See you later. Thanks again.